Um,
YouTube did not go live. Restream is having some issues.
Yeah, I was like, no one in the chat thinks we're live.
Hopefully it will start soon. It looks like it's connecting. Let me know if we're live on YouTube. Still connecting. Here we go. We're live now. There you go. We were live on Periscope. The Periscope people got some got the book. We'll do it over. We'll start over.
Let's do it over. Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
let's go back in time.
Let's start the show, guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is a man who won some money I just discovered, Brent Walgamont. How you doing, Brent?
Yeah, I won some money, and I'm here to talk about Big Brother. What's going on, people?
Also with me today is Melissa, who is wearing a cat shirt. Hey, how you going? How you doing,
yeah,
Melissa?
I am. It's Cats Against Catcalls. Woohoo! I just got it. I'm very excited about it. But yeah, we're not going to tell the YouTube audience what we told the live show before, right, guys? Like all the secrets we gave out.
It would
they
ruin
won't know.
our lives if they knew, so...
It would ruin our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we are here live on Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, as we always are and always will be, to argue about what's been happening on the live feeds for Big Brother 20. We are on YouTube now, Periscope, Facebook probably, and Twitch. So you can send questions into me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaran if you so desire. Let's get into this week, because we talked about how this could be a dud week. This could be the week that nothing happens, that it's boring. We already know the outcome. It's predestined. It doesn't matter. But we did not get that week. We got an extremely dramatic week, and I think we mostly have to praise Kaitlyn and Fessy for giving us this wonderful week. I guess you can credit Brett some, maybe Tyler and JC for those hinky votes, which definitely kicked this week off nice and good. But it's been a fun week, Brent.
It has. I'm just loving this cast more and more. I am so excited about the people, even people that I am calling furniture, i.e. Angela, i.e. Kaycee. They are playing hard. It's just been one turn after another. Every time you think you know what's going to happen, then somebody else talks on the feeds and something else might happen. Some things happened today that I did not foresee happening. And so I am just really excited about the prospects of what I think will be a great season and a really great winner. And I think literally anybody in the house right now, including Rockstar, could win the game.
That's a bold claim, Melissa. How have you felt about this week?
Well, first of all, in regards to that bold claim, I feel like that's like the way you have to think of the show now after Josh's win last season. I feel like before that, I was always like, there are certain people who couldn't win the game. Like they won't win. And that's what I always thought. And now I'm like, you know what? All bets are off. Anybody can win. It's anyone's game. Like you can't judge anybody right off the bat and you can't count anyone out at this point. But in regards to this week, Sam seems to have made this week into a week that we had hoped for. If anyone else who didn't know that the power was going to be used this week and what the power was, if anyone else had won HOH. But she has given this to us, even though she knows that someone is going to probably come back into the house that she's kicking out. Like, I really don't understand any of her logic this week, if there is any, and why she's creating so many, like, weird rifts and this sort of things. It's like, it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's almost like it's despite Sam's best efforts that we got a drama-filled week, because she's all about light and happiness and, she everything we thought Kaitlyn might be heading into the house, life coaching. But that just causes more drama in the Big Brother house. We did start this week with a big bombshell, Brett calling Rockstar out in his eviction speech, and we got the now classic, it's how disgusting my daughter's birthday. He ends up staying with a vote of 6-5. Tyler and JC being the hinky votes there, they hid that fact. Kaitlyn ends up coming up with this theory that Sam used a power to make this hinky vote stuff happen. And Tyler and JC, for the most part, got away with this. Ultimately, a lot of people are going to come down on the idea that it was probably Kaitlyn and Tyler who did it, not JC and Tyler. And a lot of people still think that Kaitlyn is in control of everything Tyler does, despite him completely snowing her on this vote and everything that goes along with that, Brent.
Yeah, I was really stunned, as were you, about the revelations about how JC views Tyler and Kaitlyn and their relationship. I was like you. I thought, oh, JC's doing a great job of covering for Tyler, saying, oh, Tyler's not a brainer. He's a dummy. Kaitlyn's controlling him. But he really believes this. And I was absolutely stunned by it, because I really do feel like JC's been playing a pretty good game and has a pretty good read on people. Actually, maybe you guys can refresh my memory. I don't remember how he got on the show, if he was a fan beforehand, but he's been playing pretty well for somebody who's just, your run-of-the-mill kind of guy. And I was a little bit taken aback by that, because I thought, basically what I was saying to myself was, JC, you should know better here. Tyler is the one who you've been plotting with this entire time. But it goes back to the whole idea that Fishback always talks about, how you're always the hero of your own narrative. I really think that when JC and Tyler are talking, that JC thinks, well, I'm the one who's coming up with this stuff, and I'm the one who's directing everything, and he's just there for the ride. I think that JC thinks he's controlling things when he's talking with Tyler, not realizing that it's a bit of a two-way street.
Yeah, JC thinks he's more of a brainer than he really is, unfortunately.
He really does, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yes. Then we saw Sam win the HOH on the week that she herself is going to nullify the results for, which is insanity in and of itself. People keep asking me, what should Sam be doing? What can she do to fix this? And it's just like, I don't even know where to start with Sam. Everything she does is wrong. I couldn't even tell you where does she begin to fix her game, because there's nothing there. There's nothing to fix. It's just all bad. Just throw everything out. Just go back to being a robot. That's better than what you're doing right now, is my advice to Sam. She immediately wants to put Kaitlyn and Haleigh up on the block because of their behavior regarding the men in the house. Melissa, have you gotten to talk about this yet?
No, I haven't. And it's very frustrating to see that. I understand, I guess, the Kaitlyn thing, just if she wants to go off of the whole, you have a boyfriend, don't do this, whatever. But Haleigh is doing nothing wrong at all. And, if Kaitlyn didn't have a boyfriend, I would say Kaitlyn's not doing anything wrong either. But, I just was so over the whole Sam thing when she did that. I was offended for them. To say that you don't have self-respect, it's just, it's not a good look for Sam at all to be calling these girls out on these things. And who is Sam to judge, what these girls are doing in the house and or their strategies? It's honestly, it wasn't empowering. It wasn't, like Kaitlyn said, even, it wasn't women helping women and women lifting up women. It was just awful. After Sam did that, I was very over her.
You might say it's the opposite of female empowerment. So
I would say that.
Yeah. She doesn't want to tell anyone her noms beforehand, though. She says, no one-on-ones this week. Nobody's allowed in my HOH room when I'm not present. She really is going to lay down the law for her HOH. She does end up putting Kaitlyn and Haleigh up on the block, as we mentioned. And they were upset about her comments, and rightfully so. Then we got into the next, so the first segment of the week where the strategy didn't really matter was hunting for these hinky votes, the drama between Brett and Rockstar, the pots, the pans, the micro penises. Then we got Sam and her crazy HOH speeches or nomination speech and the drama that caused. Then we had the saga with Fessy and the veto, where he is afraid that he's going to be backdoored by Sam if he doesn't win the veto. So he needs to make sure that he plays in the veto and wins it, even though in order to make sure he plays in the veto, he has to promise both Haleigh and Kaitlyn that he will use it on them if he wins. This is going to cause some major drama between him and Kaitlyn when Haleigh ends up being the person that picks him to play, and then when he wins, he is thinking he wants to use the veto on Haleigh and not Kaitlyn. Brent, have you been enjoying or hating watching Kaitlyn berate Fessy for hours on end?
I have been hating. I mean, it's just because it's like beating a dead horse. And someone even tweeted out earlier that that's how it is with her. She just will not let it go. And she, at this point, she's gone on to, well, aren't you even going to vote for me? Like, the least you could do is vote for me at this point. If you weren't going to use the veto on me, he's like, he just won't take a stand with her. Again, I think it's very much what you said before. It's like the side piece. Like, he wants Haleigh, but he's also cool having Kaitlyn around to flirt with because she gives him more attention. But on the other hand, she's a bit of a handful and he'd rather have Haleigh. It's such a mess. And it's all caused by Fessy's hormones. And it's really, but we haven't even talked, which I'm sure we'll get to, Fessy's whole conversation with Haleigh when he eventually did use the veto on her leading up to that. I mean, I don't think I've been on the podcast since that happened. That was let's just talk about it now. It was really fucking gross. It was really terrible. Okay. Like Fessy, I'm all for flirting and, Allison, from Big Brother 4, flirting your way through the game. That's all great. Being a man eater or, showing off your muscles, whatever, all cool. But to literally corner somebody within the game and demand romantic favors from them or absolutes in order to better their place in the game was just a bridge too far for me. And maybe it's rubbing me the wrong way because Fessy's always the one who's trying to get into Haleigh's pants and Haleigh's the one always trying to stop him. I'm trying to ask myself, would I feel this way if it was a man? If this was a woman doing this to a man, and I would feel like that.
I feel like we have seen that. Kaitlyn has basically done very similar things with Tyler. She's been less explicit about it, but she's talked about it basically in code. So I think that that is equally. I mean, maybe not equally, but that is also gross. I think that it's gross all around for sure. Melissa, did you have any feelings about Fessy in this whole scenario?
I felt like he handled it really poorly. I think that the easiest way and the way we've seen it done before is if you want to use the veto on one person, but you are supposed to be using it on both people, then you just say, whoever picks me, whoever draws me for the veto competition, I'm going to give it to them. That's just the simplest way to do it. I mean, you just have to say that. I mean, clearly it worked out in this case because Haleigh, I mean, obviously, if it didn't work out this way, he'd have to rearrange the strategy. But at this point, Haleigh picks him. He uses Haleigh. Today is Kaitlyn. Haleigh picked me. I was playing for her, so I'm using it on Haleigh. And then conversation over. Not to mention the fact that I do like his arguments where he's saying, look, the first week you flipped the vote, the second week you got out Swaggy, and the third week you might have flipped the vote. We still don't know. So that why would he use it on her? Why would he save her? It makes sense, his argument that you're not a loyal, player. As much as you say, oh, you're my best friend, which I hate, by the way, that they literally have been saying that to everybody in the house is, but you're my best friend in this house. You're my best friend. Oh, he's my best friend, but you're also my best friend. It's you can't have that. You can't have that many best friends. Just say that you're working with them, say that you like them, whatever, but stop calling them all your best friends.
You
it's
are
so
my
annoying.
Best friend, but my other best friend is also on the block, and you took out my other best friend last week. So what am I supposed to do when you're all my best friends?
That's so exactly annoying. What it is. It's so annoying. So yeah, it's just been been a little much. I think a little much.
Yeah, and this idea that that Haleigh is not allowed to play with the guy's hair because she's spoken for. I don't understand that. Obviously, they do not have the kind of relationship. There really shouldn't be any kind of relationship where you demand that that the other person stop doing doing something, or else you're not going to do something for them. That's not a healthy relationship to begin with, and this is not even anywhere near the kind of relationship where that should even be a discussion point at all. And especially on a week where Sam was implying that Haleigh's behavior was wrong, instead of like backing Haleigh up in that situation, he kind of reinforces the idea by being like, well, I don't like that behavior. I would want you to stop doing that if I were to help you out. It's really gross all around, Brent.
It's so awful. Sorry to like cut Brent off,
No,
but
go ahead.
it's really awful. And I hate the fact, initially I was like, maybe there's an explanation for this. Maybe Sam didn't really say it in that way. Like maybe she means something else, but she said it in a way that wasn't exactly accurate. And then she goes on, and her logic is worse when she explains herself. When she talks about how, well, he's a man, he can't help himself. It's like, okay, that is ridiculous. You're sitting there, like, if she had said, look, I don't like the guys doing it either. Like, if she had just said that, then I'd be like, okay, all right, as long as everybody's in it together. But she doesn't care about the guys doing it. She thinks that they just can't help themselves. And that is just gross.
Yeah. So Fessy does end up using the veto on Haleigh, which causes the next part of the drama of this week, the final part, I think, or at least potentially, where Sam would not tell anybody who the replacement was going to be. She implied that it might be Rockstar, but she also implied that she might not want to do Rockstar. And apparently, we still don't know for sure exactly how this went down, but apparently she was looking at JC, she was implying that she was about to put him up on the block, saying that she was going to put her best friend up on the block because she knew he'd be safe, and then he said, no, don't do this, is a bad idea, please don't do this, and she changed her mind in the middle of the ceremony and decided to put up Rockstar instead. And now Rockstar is up on the block.
So now she's made more enemies. Yeah. I honestly don't understand it. It's just awful.
Yes. So
go
ahead.
I would also say really quickly that far be it from me to praise a lampshade, but I thought Angela did some good work beforehand, because no one was really getting through to Sam insofar as targeting Rockstar or putting Rockstar up on the block as a replacement nominee. I felt like until Angela talked to her and made some points that really resonated with Sam, in that she said that, well, jury's coming up pretty soon, and if we keep Rockstar here, we're essentially keeping her from her family, and that won't be good because she doesn't have a shot to win the game, contrary to what I'm contending right now. And she doesn't have a shot to win the game, and so what's the point then? Why would we do that to a mother like that? Let her go home to be with her kids. Now, let me say that I think that's freaking terrible logic, and I would be offended by that if I was in the house. However, I think as far as Angela is trying to get Sam to nominate Rockstar, I'm totally fine with it for game purposes. So I really liked what she did there. I don't know if it ultimately did mean a hill of beans difference, because Sam is not a good talker, and we don't know what ultimately swayed her. And as you said, she at one point it looked like she was going to nominate JC, almost tried to, and then changed her mind. So I don't know how much influence that Angela's talk with her had, but I do want to praise it a little bit in that of the talks that she had about Rockstar, that seemed to be the one that carried the most water for me.
Well, and I honestly think even the more effective part of that conversation was when Angela said that Rockstar was a bully and that she bullied Brett and that she needs to be punished for that. I think that really resonates with Sam, because Sam doesn't want to send Rockstar home, but maybe she did deserve to be punished by being put on the block because of some of her behavior with the pots and pans and all of that. So Angela definitely did have some level of influence, even though, as we mentioned, it looked like JC might be the nomination there, despite any of that stuff. So Rockstar goes up on the block, and after all of that, Sam then tells them all about the power. That there will be a chance for the person who leaves this week to return to the game, because she had this power to use on anyone she wanted, but it expired last week for herself, and now it will be automatically given to the person who is evicted this week. They are all speculating what this could mean. Some of them think that means there's a battle back, and that potentially, other people might be able to battle their way back in. Some people think that it means there might be some kind of vote, there might be some kind of challenge that they need to win to get back into the game. Maybe they need to compete against some of the current house guests, but they are not sure, and so they are planning for this week to be a regular week, not knowing for sure whether or not they are actually going to return. So we are getting some actual strategy out of the week after all. And with Rockstar and Kaitlyn up on the block, it's actually looking very interesting. We have yet another split vote. First of all, JC was very upset about the fact that he almost went on the block. Fessy did not give him a heads up that he was going to use the veto, so JC was pretty annoyed at Fessy. And he is very, very anti-Kaitlyn, as we talked about at the beginning of the recap. He thinks that Tyler is just totally snowed by Kaitlyn. He thinks that Tyler will do anything Kaitlyn tells him to do, and he needs Kaitlyn gone if he wants Tyler to be fully on his side in his mind. So he is dead set on removing Kaitlyn from the game. Meanwhile, the level 6 people have come to the conclusion that they want to keep Kaitlyn in the game. They know Rockstar is against them. They feel like Kaitlyn can be swayed to their side. They think that Kaitlyn would likely stay anyway, so they might as well vote for her. And Rachel thinks that Rockstar, if she stays, will remain a target for the guys in the alliance, meaning that they'll lose 2 women if Kaitlyn and then Rockstar leave, as opposed to if Rockstar goes now, they might target somebody like Scottie or Fessy in the future, which would mean a man would leave, which is great for Rachel because she's all about the women. And then, of course, the Faute side is just completely done with Kaitlyn at this point. They want her gone. They would much prefer Rockstar to stay, even though they don't particularly trust her, which leads us to what's looking like potentially a 5-5 vote, where Sam would break the tie to evict Kaitlyn, but it might not stay that way, Melissa.
Yeah, what I don't understand is why, if they think that the person might come back into the house, why aren't they trying to do a unanimous vote? I feel like what they should be doing is being like, we need to make sure we're all voting the same, so that way whoever comes back can't be pissed at one side and not pissed at the other side. I don't know why. If I was in the house, I'd be like, I need to make sure I'm on the right side of the vote in this one. Like, there's no way I can be on the wrong side of the vote, and I don't want it to be a tie, because then I'm going to be on the wrong side of the vote anyway. Like, I don't like the idea that they're not trying for that. And I feel like they should be trying to do a unanimous vote to get out Kaitlyn, but have Tyler be the one vote for Kaitlyn. So that way when she comes back in the house, she will be like unbelievably loyal to him. That's what's been like cooking in my head. And I feel like no one else is really like working on that in the house.
Well, I think it's a little bit weird because, they don't know exactly what the ramifications are of this chance to come back into the house. I feel like if they knew what we know, they might even have more incentive to continue to hold fast and split the vote and line up behind their sides, because, Tyler has every reason to want to show his loyalty, and he wants his side to continue to show loyalty to Kaitlyn right now. And whether she stays or goes, first of all, if she stays, that's good because he can continue to manipulate her. If she goes and comes back, at least they voted for her to stay. So I sort of get where everybody's coming from. I guess maybe I have less sense of the Faute side of things and why they're doing what they're doing, because I don't feel like Rockstar is the kind of person that's going to hold a grudge. I mean, with them, I know she could with Brett, but I do think she would be more forgiving of the people that are on her side. But I may have that wrong.
Well, I also think she wouldn't go work with the other side.
Exactly.
So I think, even if Faute was like, we gotta just vote with the majority, which I think that they should be doing is just. If I'm on Faute and I'm like, we've been on the wrong side of the vote every single time, the person who's leaving this week could come back, I would be going to the other side being like, all right, what's the deal? What are we all doing as a group? Like, because I just feel like they already know they're on the losing side of the vote each week. And they should just go and make it unanimous this week. And Rockstar is not going to work with the other side if she comes back. So it doesn't make sense to me why they're still like, you know what, we're just going to try for it, because that hasn't been working every single week.
Well, I do think, to Bayleigh's credit, I think that's what she's thinking about this week. And we did get a conversation recently before the roundtable started where she was talking to Scottie, and it did seem like they were starting to come around to the idea that maybe they should be keeping Kaitlyn in the game. Maybe they should flip to make sure they're on the right side of the numbers for many of the reasons that you just described.
Yeah, but the one problem with that is that then if Rockstar comes back, she's not going to trust those two. I feel like they need to make sure that Faute votes together on that side of the house. Like, otherwise there's people being called out as, like, you know, unless they're going to do that whole hinky vote thing again and just lie about their votes the whole time. Well, I don't know.
But yeah, I think the logic applies that that Rockstar is not going to go after Scottie and Bayleigh. Rockstar will always be after Brett and Tyler and that other side, even if Bayleigh and Scottie flip on them. And at the same time, by letting people like Fessy and Haleigh vote Kaitlyn out, it ensures that Kaitlyn is focused on them instead of Bayleigh and Scottie, who voted to keep her. So I actually do like the move on their part. I think that it actually does have a decent amount of value. And so they were talking about this. It's actually, I think a lot of credit needs to go to Kaycee as well. Kaycee and Rachel and Angela, but probably Kaycee the most, for really getting into Bayleigh's ear and trying to, like, get her on board to potentially keep Kaitlyn in the game. Another part of why Bayleigh and Scottie were thinking about this was that, you know, they know that JC is one of the votes they have to rely on. And JC is telling them, you know, Fessy might flip on us. And so they're like, is JC just going to flip on us? Are we going to get the rug pulled out from under us again and then find out that we're on the wrong side of the vote and now Kaitlyn is still here and she's going to come at us hard? You know, let's you know, preempt that. Let's try and get ahead of this. Let's try to work with these three women on this other side. The logic in terms of how much they think they can trust the women in level 6, I think is bad. I think that they trust them too much. However, I think the move in general is good, and I think it will put them in a good spot moving forward. They just need to kind of realize that they need to be better at pulling those women away from the men. I do think it's possible, especially Rachel. But if they don't know it exists, it'll be hard to make that happen. But they are going to be in a position to do it if they continue with this path and potentially vote to keep Kaitlyn, which would make the vote 7-3. Kaitlyn stays. Rockstar goes to compete in this puzzle, whatever it's going to be, to potentially get back into the game. Which I think would be, if she fails, I think that would be funny because I don't think they expect them to fail. And if she gets back into the game, I think it'll be funny because she'll be pissed again. Right, Brent?
I think so. Yes, I'm sorry. I have been. This is really fantastic. You know, I think we keep things a little more chill on the roundtable. There is a girl. I assume it's a girl. It could be a guy in the chat. Her name is Peggy, and then she has just been consistently saying, Taran, I love you. Taran, I have such a crush on you. Taran, you're amazing. I love you. Wow, Taran. You're amazing. And then I said something about it, and then she threw in an occasional, oh, Brent, I love you too. Oh, which whatever.
And so then like, wow, not enough, Brent.
Right, yeah. So then she kept doing, and I told her, I said, you know, honey, knock it off. Like, this is like, we're talking about strategy here, okay? But then she continued to do it. So I put her in detention, which is what I call silence for 5 minutes here. And then it hit me. It's the spirit of Kaitlyn. Like, that is what's happening.
I mean, what I got from this story is that somebody was being too nice to me in the chat, and so you decided to delete their messages.
A little too nice to you in the chat. I mean, it just is a little creepy, a little stalker.
Okay,
like I don't like.
I believe you.
Okay, let's say, you know, Taran's cute. Oh, how hot he is today. Oh, that happens all the time. No big deal. But when you say it, you know, freaking 15 times, and I'm not making a joke. That we're talking Kaitlyn levels of obsession here.
Oh my!
I thought maybe we have a little bit of a problem. So I decided to put them in detention. I'm sure she'll come back.
Before Taran could see it.
Yes.
I'm just glad I have my own personal version of Sam to protect me from the feminine wiles of the chat.
Thank you. Yes. I'm here for you.
I just can't help myself, so it's really down to Brent to protect me. So yeah, it's right now it's looking like the vote is potentially 7-3. Do you think it's going to stay that way, Brent?
No, I don't. I do think that Bayleigh and Scottie will probably end up telling their alliance if they decide they're going to go that direction. Look, we're going to vote this way. JC's not going to be happy about it. I expect JC to try to pull them back to try to evict Kaitlyn. And he might be successful in doing so. I don't know. They're going to have to make a decision how they want to play this. I know that there have been some people talking on Twitter about how Bayleigh could potentially take the place of JC within this alliance. By the way, I also think that Level 6 is making a huge mistake by not offering the Level 6 alliance to JC. Right. I mean, look, they lost Winston. This would be so natural for them to say, you know what? Okay, we need JC's vote this week. We don't have JC's vote. They're not counting on Bayleigh and Scottie. Let's go to JC. Let's Kaycee and Brett. Let's say you pull JC in, you talk to him, Tyler will come into the room and we'll all form an alliance, quote unquote, and we'll call it, I don't know, Level 6. And, that might be a way to get JC back in the fold if he feels like he's part of something. Having said that, he is a headstrong little bitch, and he likes to have his way. So I don't know that even something like that will make him change his mind, but I do think they're missing an opportunity by not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I did suggest that on one of the morning updates, and I do think it could be effective. I think the one worry is JC is a little bit out there. He is kind of, he has revealed some information. So, you've got a thing that's working pretty well. It's, you've got people that are pretty tight-lipped, and then to bring JC in on that might disturb that balance. But it is an interesting idea. Michael in the chat brought up that I apparently need one of those no cat call t-shirts as well, Melissa. So if you could just point me in the right direction.
Just wear it every podcast.
Yeah. Yes. So let's talk about the state of the house here. Where do people fall now? Obviously, we've been talking about Level 6, who are now Level 5, but they're still calling themselves Level 6.
It's Level 6.
Yes. They've got Tyler, Kaycee, Rachel, Angela, Brett. They're still together. They're still working well together. And the difference is that they now they have JC a bit more loosely attached. He'd been working for them for a while, but this week he is working against them, and that's kind of dangerous for them. And so he's not quite as attached as he used to be. And Sam is kind of the same thing, where Sam has kind of proven herself this week to be a complete wild card. She did not accept any direct influence from them whatsoever, and she could prove to go against them depending on where her emotional state is pointing her. So I think that we've previously talked about JC and Sam being tightly, tight part of the Level 6 influence sphere, but they're a lot more loose now than they have been before. Kaitlyn is an interesting story as well, because depending on what happens with this vote, they might be able to finally fully pull Kaitlyn in, but at the same time, I don't know if it's possible to fully pull Kaitlyn in, and
no way.
And even right now, she's kind of just in between. I don't know if I would ever count Kaitlyn to be on a side, period. So they see value in Kaitlyn, but I wouldn't call her a part of the Level 6 side.
Tyler was having conversations earlier today with Kaycee about the possibility of sending Kaitlyn out, or even if Kaitlyn comes back, sending her out again the next week, because he's had it up to here with her. I think he's at a delicate crossroads in his game, Tyler, I'm talking about, because he has somebody who he can easily influence and who can do things for him in the game. And basically, he wasn't lying when he says, jump, and she says how high. That's probably a pretty accurate demonstration. However, I do feel like she could potentially still be manipulated by other people if she thinks that Tyler is playing her, because that was the one thing about Swaggy that she didn't like. The thing that she kept repeating to Fessy was, well, Swaggy kept saying that he ran the group. Well, of course, we're all on the outside going well, big whoop. Like, what the hell? But that was so against her line of thinking, because she's like, I will not be played by some man. I'm going to make my own decisions. So if
I'm
she
gonna
ever
get played by another man.
Yeah, exactly. if she felt that she really was being played, like if she found out that Tyler was the vote this past week and he lied to her face, or at least didn't, affirm what she thinks that he did affirm when he said, I would never do that, when she asked him to swear on his dad's grave. I feel like that there's nothing like a woman scorned. So I would not want to play with fire. I think Tyler probably does need to get rid of her sooner than later. I do not think it's a good idea to bring her in, because she's still very friendly with the people in Faute, and I don't feel like she would necessarily target any of them easily. We'll see.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just cracking up because poor Peggy has come back to the chat room being like, I am so sorry, over and over again.
All good, Peggy. He's really hot.
It's okay,
Peggy.
Yeah.
She's being bullied by Brent.
I know, poor Peggy. She's so sad now.
Tyler actually even said today something along the lines of like, I'm really gonna go for it in the goodbye message to Kaitlyn if she's pre-jury. She's gonna hate me so much, but I'm just so done with her.
So ready for it. Oh, he was living his best life.
It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. I can't wait for that moment. Now I'm kind of hoping that she does go pre-jury, because otherwise we're not gonna get that moment. But yeah, unfortunately for him, even though he kind of did think about like maybe we should get Kaitlyn out this week, it is kind of a situation where it's like, she's probably not going to go this week anyway, so you might as well take out the person who's less likely to return, that is definitely against you, and then keep her on board until maybe the next opportunity to take her out. But again, it's a spot where it's like Tyler might have bigger problems when people like Haleigh and Scottie and even Bayleigh to some extent are kind of after him, but at the same time, they're more after Kaitlyn. They would probably target Kaitlyn over Tyler at this point. So she is a good meat shield. She is a good person to have as somebody that he can influence, but she just drives him insane. And I absolutely can feel for him in that spot. And I don't think I'd have the patience to keep her. I think I would get rid of her this week and say a terrible goodbye message. And that's where my failing would be in this game, because I just don't think I could do it, Melissa. I don't.
Yeah,
I just.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you were frozen for a second, Melissa. Go ahead.
I know, it's okay. Don't worry. I just was gonna say, I just don't understand. I get why Tyler is so frustrated with her and everything, but he's talking about giving her a bad goodbye message and all this sort of stuff, and it's just Tyler's one of the few people who knows that whoever's going out, or at least he was. Now everyone kind of knows, but he knows more about it than everyone else. But that it's not a battle back, but. He's one of the few people who knows that whoever's going out is coming back in. I don't know why he's not playing this week more cautiously. I feel like he needs to be, more towards Kaitlyn, just, I'm in this with you. I want to vote with you, whatever, because he knows that she's probably going to come back, or Rockstar's going to come back. I guess,
it's so easy, though, because remember how we were week one when we read this card from Sam and we saw there's a chance to come back in the house, and we're like, well, what the hell does that mean? We have no idea what that means. And then we got, confirmation from Vegas about it's a puzzle, and then we had that screenshot on the live show about what would have been the challenge. So, they have less information than what we have. And remember, Tyler did not see the card. Sam saw the card. Tyler didn't see it. So he doesn't know exactly what it said. He's just working under these. And two, they've had a battle back the last couple of years. So I think Tyler, as being a fan of the show, is probably thinking there is some sort of battle back.
Well, I think he's thinking there's not a battle back because Sam was going to come back the first week. So,
but he also can't rule it out because he's like, well, there could be a battle back, but maybe the person who's evicted gets an extra advantage in the challenge or something like that, they do on Survivor, where they give an advantage or something. So
I think Tyler's handling it. He's working to keep Kaitlyn in the game. I think he's giving her enough time. I think she'll be happy with Tyler, especially if they pull off a split vote where Fessy and Haleigh end up voting against her. I think that she'll have nowhere else to turn but to Tyler as the guy that kept her in the house. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with how he's handling her so far. It's just a matter of how long can he keep up this endurance competition.
That's kind of where I'm at with him right now. Like, I think for his own personal sanity and his other personal relationships within the game. Like, I mean, you only have so much social currency to spend in the Big Brother house. And I do feel like he spends an inordinate amount on Kaitlyn and maintaining that relationship. Obviously, right now, Kaitlyn is a little preoccupied with Fessy and, trying to get his vote and trying to beat him over the head about the fact that he didn't use the veto and he promised and he said he would. But I do feel like once this week passes that she's eventually going to be back in Tyler's lap, if she's not in bed with Brett giving him a hand job, which is apparently what happened last night. So, yeah, but we can get to that later. Sorry.
What's funny about the whole Tyler thing is that the only reason anybody wants to target Tyler is because of Kaitlyn, because they think that Kaitlyn is Tyler and they think that Tyler is Kaitlyn. And so they think that, like, oh, well, we'd put up Tyler next to Kaitlyn, but Kaitlyn is our big target. She's the mastermind. He's the puppet. We need to get Tyler out because, I mean, he's good at competitions and he'll do whatever Kaitlyn says. And so it's almost like if he's able to keep her in the game long enough that she goes out before him, he might be able to blend in and just kind of be like, well, Now I'll just be loyal to somebody else. And yeah. I feel like people are receptive to that idea.
I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. I do feel like there are people like Haleigh and Bayleigh, Rockstar, who all would feel a little bit more threatened by Tyler specifically and would put up Tyler and Brett or Tyler and Kaitlyn or Tyler and Sam. But it's always Tyler. You know what I mean?
Bayleigh has had this argument with Rockstar where she feels like Kaitlyn is the bigger threat and that her plan would be to backdoor Kaitlyn and that she feels like, and she has specifically said the only reason she doesn't feel good about Tyler is because of his connection to Kaitlyn and that once Kaitlyn is gone, there might be something there. Bayleigh's one of the main people I'm talking about in regards to that. And that idea has kind of infected Haleigh as well, where she's obviously kind of sketched out about Tyler, but a lot of that comes from the fact that she's sketched out about Kaitlyn. Rockstar is the only one that's actually anti-Tyler and Brett, and then the problem is that she's actually more anti-Brett than she is anti-Tyler at the moment. I do think for the most part, Kaitlyn is the main reason that Tyler's being targeted, and the situation where he might be in danger over her is if she happens to win the veto or something goes wrong with the back door, and then he's the next best thing to take a shot at Kaitlyn. That could get him in trouble. I think that it's kind of hard to see that happening, Melissa.
It is just so wild to me how they think that Kaitlyn is the mastermind. I mean, she must be doing an amazing job to convince them that she is this very intelligent, the fact that she went against her own self-interest to get Swaggy out, you would think they'd be like, there must have been someone in her ear. There must have been something, but she must have been doing such an amazing job of convincing everyone that Swaggy was mean to me and I needed to get him out and this is for me and me alone and no one else convinced me of this, because you'd think that the only logical explanation is that someone else was in her ear. Oh, who was up in the HOH room with her all week? Tyler. I don't understand how that's not. And the fact that people are thinking that Tyler is just a total dummy is crazy to me, because Tyler talks game with people. It's not like he just sits there like, duh, duh, duh. He talks game with everyone. And to then leave that conversation and think to yourself, this guy's a dummy and he has no idea what he's talking about. That's crazy to me that they leave those conversations thinking that he's being manipulated. I don't know.
Yeah, and so I think this is a good time to talk about the Kaitlyn has feelings for people controversy in the house right now.
Oh my God.
Because JC has figured this out, that Kaitlyn told Fessy that she has feelings for him, and then he found out from Tyler that she told Tyler that she has feelings for him, and that she even went as far as to tell Tyler that Fessy told her that he has feelings for her. And so JC got all of that information, and JC is the one really, really trying to push this narrative of Tyler's a dummy and he's being controlled by Kaitlyn, because he believes it. Because when he goes to Tyler saying we need to get rid of Kaitlyn, Tyler's going, no, dude, don't worry. I've got her. You don't need to worry about this. And JC's like, you're getting played. You're not a brainer.
You're not a brainer. Where do you get that word from? I've never heard that before this. That's like some, I don't know if it's some sort of like Spanglish word, like you mixed an English and a Spanish word together and got brainer. I've never heard that as a term within a reality show game, Melissa.
I feel like it might come from the phrase no brainer. So he's like, you're no brainer. Like, you're no brainer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not a brainer.
I just think that it's so funny to me how, like, both of those sides are trying to convince them. They're convinced that they're right, and they're trying to convince the other person that they're right. So, like, JC's like, I'm looking out for your best interest. You're being played. Like, your poor heart is going to get broken. And Tyler's sitting there like, I'm not into her. I don't know how else to say that. And JC's like, oh, you like poor thing. You just are being so played right now. You think you're just saying that, but I know you're in love. It's like, no, he's not in love. Like I can just imagine. I mean, both sides are trying to help the other person, and it's so funny to watch. It's also like infuriating because you want to be like shake the other person, like you're so wrong, but you can't.
Right. Well, and JC is really intractable whenever he gets set in his ways. Mm-hmm. And that combined with the fact that Tyler has done such a great job in putting out this idea that, that Kaitlyn is the mastermind and he's just sort of the dumb tag along or something like that. I mean, Haleigh has talked to him about the fact that people always talk about them together, but in some ways, many people do think of Kaitlyn as the mastermind, even though it really is Tyler. Like the level 6 people are in on the joke. Like they understand that Kaitlyn is just the neurotic that Tyler can basically say, jump, and she says, how high? But everybody else in the house, they're not sure about, who's calling the shots and who has real feelings for who, and are those feelings reciprocated, because they don't see everything that we see. So I understand why there might be some confusion about it. I do think it's funny that Tyler's own closest alliance member besides Kaycee in JC doesn't even believe him when he's telling him the truth.
Yes, and they are having an argument as we speak about this very subject. JC is telling Tyler that he's weak-minded and that he needs to keep Rockstar, that he will be able to protect Tyler from Rockstar, and Tyler is telling JC, if you vote against these girls, meaning the level 6 people, they're gonna think you're on the other side. Tyler essentially trying to like tell JC like you're kind of on the wrong side of this and you're gonna get in trouble, but JC's not really hearing it because he's not. He says Rockstar's not coming for you, and Tyler says Kaitlyn's not coming for you, and JC says I don't care if Kaitlyn's coming for me. I want her out because this is better for me and you, and what he means is better for me because she won't be influencing you because he still thinks that. But JC found out this stuff about Kaitlyn telling both Fessy and Tyler about her feelings, and he ended up telling Fessy about this. So Fessy now knows that Kaitlyn was double dealing. JC wanted to orchestrate a meeting between Fessy and Tyler to discuss this, which would be a fantastic meeting if it happens. He also told Bayleigh about this, who then told Kaycee. So it's starting to make the rounds, kind of waiting for this to spread it enough that it gets back to either Tyler or Kaitlyn. I think that would be fun as well. But yes, Kaitlyn, I've talked about it extensively on the updates, has just been, crapping on Fessy all week long. I thought you were my best friend.
Yeah.
How did you do this?
By the way, can I just ask really quickly? I love you to death. You know I do. But can you please stop doing that voice? Like, I just can't stand it anymore. Like,
I don't know, Brent.
Just, like,
people
seem
to love it.
Just quote her, and then because it goes on and on.
But
and
Brent,
on.
you're his best friend.
How could you
and
do
you're
this to me,
betraying
Brent?
him. How could you
How
do
could
this
you?
to
I thought we
him?
were best friends.
This is so mean.
I'm not sending either one of you a Christmas card right now.
Oh man, I love when I find something that gets under Brent's skin.
I'm literally listening to the update going, okay, you can stop now. We get it.
Guess who's gonna be the most recurring character on the updates from now on?
I love today's update because today's update was only you.
Yeah.
So, just you had more time to do the voice.
Oh, yes. I played out the whole thing. All right.
Speaking of truth.
Yes, I'm standing up for Brent.
Thank you.
Little children podcasters everywhere are looking up to me and my excellent, very accurate impressions of these people. And Brent's sitting here like, oh, why are you doing the voice? All right, so
Kaitlyn is frustrating to me because I feel like when she speaks seriously and she speaks strategically, I can really get into her. I mean, I like what she's doing and what she says and the way she says it, and I can see it, but I just feel like maybe 75% of the time she's like crying to a guy, and that's where she loses me. And it's frustrating because I really didn't see that happening first week or even second week. I mean, I saw her crying, but I was like, I get it. I any sort of emotion, I cry.
Right.
But I just don't like the cry to get your way about something, like crying to somebody about something. It just feels like she's always the victim of whatever. And instead, she should be turning that around and going to people like, look, you've got to keep me blah, 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 gaming it rather than just crying and being like, why did you do that? Like, okay, he did it. It's over. Move on. Figure something else out.
Yes.
Yeah, I will say. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Fireworks on the feeds right now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
JC telling Tyler, you're thinking with your dick right now, your micro penis. And Tyler responds, I'm not, bro. I don't have an effing ounce of feelings for that dumb girl. I know I can control her. She's a effing puppet for me. I got her dumb ass to flip on Swaggy. Listen to me, JC.
I mean, I feel like if I was in Tyler's position, I'd do the same thing because I'd be like infuriated that he's like keeps like harping on this, that I have feelings for. I'd be like, that is enough. I would probably blow up too.
I'm so mad that Kaitlyn was not like around the corner or something to hear that. I'm really pissy about that. I need that to get back to her somehow. Please, 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 for the love of God.
Oh man, it's he's finally letting some of that steam off. Like that it's been brewing in him as Kaitlyn.
It has been brewing because he has just been, like when people come up to him and say, the people are thinking about you and Kaitlyn as a duo, as a showmance, and he's been trying to like turn down that flame, like we're not in a showmance, guy. She has a boyfriend at home. We're just friends. But Kaitlyn makes it almost impossible by her behavior because she's very touchy, feely, physical with many people, and basically his excuse that she has a boyfriend doesn't even hold water with the housemates anymore because half of them don't even believe she has a boyfriend at this point.
Mm-hmm. It's very true, and I guess we should, Brent, you mentioned the Brett Kaitlyn situation from last night. Did you want to talk about it? Because I personally feel like this is probably as it usually is, kind of like an overblown. I doubt this was what people are saying it was.
Yes. But I will clarify. Okay, first of all, given what Kaitlyn has done in the house, I don't feel like she has a lot of room for me to. I'll just say for me to joke about it. It's okay. So she was in bed with Brett, who again she supposedly hates, but now she's in bed with him. Fine, her choice. I'll say this. It looked to me as though she moved her hand in order to jack him off, and that's what it looked like to me. In bed, and it didn't really go anywhere. That's what happened. And then later on, he did his own business by himself. Fine, whatever. But it looked to me like there was more there than what some people are like there was nothing there, and to me, it's like there wasn't nothing there. But there also wasn't something there, if that makes sense. Do you guys get that or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's fair.
All right.
Anything else you want to touch on before we get to the stock watch?
There was something I wanted to say, but it's like way back in the chat, and I done forgot about it. I keep. I'm sure it'll come to me.
All right.
Whatever.
All right, let's get to the stock watch. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about there. I will, of course, keep you updated if there's any more drama. It looks like the drama died down on the feeds.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say. It was when Melissa was talking about Kaitlyn, how she can't stand that voice when she uses it, but because she does like her when she's not talking like that voice. But seriously, I don't even like Kaitlyn when she's not talking like that, because Melissa, she talks like this for most of the time, where like she's asking you a question and she's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you questioning me right now? Like, what is your problem? Like, seriously, like, what is going on? Like, why are you like, this is unbelievable. Like, I don't, and it just, that cadence just goes on. Oh my God. Yeah. I'll be glad when she's off, when she is off the show, I'll be glad, because then I don't have to listen to the retells on the live feed updates.
I don't understand why she can't,
she can't talk like a normal person, it seems like.
Stronger in the freaks, and now she's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, right.
Sorry, my stupid thing. It's really bad connection today. Sorry about it.
I've seen people that want to start a crowdfunding thing to get you an Ethernet cord. So.
And now my microphone's not working. I don't even know what's going on.
Oh, my.
All right. Well.
Why did your microphone change?
I don't know. It just said that it had to switch to auto microphone. I don't know.
Well, tell it, switch it back.
It says it's not plugged in. I don't.
All right, you can work on that as we start up the stock watch here. I'll bring it over to this view. Here we are, the stock watch for week 4. I put out the form earlier today, and I will say this time I combed through the numbers, and I found a surprising number of people who all 1s and 10s on their ratings. All 1s for everyone except for Bayleigh and Rockstar that were 10s. That was one of the more common ones that I saw. And I did, in fact, get rid of anybody that only cast votes that were 1s and 10s. So your vote did not count. That's what you get for trying to game the system. So yes, that happened. And so hopefully that means the numbers will be a little better, a little more accurate this time. We'll see. But let's go. Let's start here with Sam, who is our HOH. We're going to give her a rating out of 10 based on her game that was played this week. And it's probably not going to be a great rating. Spoiler alert. Melissa, how's your microphone? You still working on it? Yes, she's still working on it. Brent, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I'm gonna give Sam. I'm gonna give her a 1. I think she could not have played this week worse. So I have to give her a 1, because I don't think there was a worse week unless she was evicted. But I mean, like, it's just so terrible, and I'm not trying to be oversimplistic in giving her a 1, Taran. I don't know necessarily if you will agree with me on this, but I mean, she went from a position where many people liked her to a position where now many people actively dislike her and think that she's a little bit judgmental. And she, like, I don't even know if people that even are on her side at this point, like the Bretts and Rachels of the world, who, have supported Sam in the past and that Sam has voted with, I don't even know if Sam got to the end of the game, I don't know that after this spectacle that they would even respect her. Like, because she's so above the game and she acts like she's above the game, like she's not even playing. I do want to point out, just as a little pat on the back, that I did say that Sam was going to tell everybody. You thought that the DR would stop her from telling everybody about the power after the veto ceremony, but she did end up telling them about it, which I guess can soften the blow a little bit. But I still think that overall this week could have it in a week where she has almost all of the power. It feels to me like she could not have played this worse, from trying to nominate JC, and I need to see the ceremony, but that's what it sounds like, to then nominating Rockstar instead. I mean, show me how this isn't the worst she could have played, Taran.
Well, I agree with you for the most part. I think, like I said, there's nothing good here at all. That said, I do think that you know, she still has the potential to win the game, and if that makes sense. Like, they don't not respect her so much that they wouldn't give her the money if she was sitting next to the right person. I think that there is still some level of like, it's good old Sam. You know, certainly I think she's lost Haleigh's vote and Kaitlyn's vote, but I do think that there's something still there. So I'm not completely down to give her a 1, but I did give her a 2 because this was a terrible week for her. Melissa, any
is it working now?
Yes, we're good.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna give her a 2 as well because she just played this week so terribly. She made so many enemies. First of all, she became HOH when she didn't need to become HOH. Then I was like, maybe she could figure this out. Maybe she's got a reason behind becoming HOH. Like, she wants to be the person to decide, or like find some way to make it beneficial to her. She didn't. So, that like was
down on her by 1 this week. The audience gave her a 4 last week and also went down on her by 1 and gave her a 3 this week. The audience continues to be higher on Sam than we are for whatever reason. They not as ready to go to be completely out on Sam. I would have figured she would have gone down further, especially given popular opinion has also kind of been lost for Sam, but she's still got some supporters out there, Brent.
Yeah, well, I think the best thing that ever happened to Sam this week is that Kaitlyn is a complete neurotic mess, and many of the things that and Fessy is obviously no knight in shining armor either. So there are basically quite a few horrible people in the house, and Sam is just one of many, and not just the only one. Because at the beginning of the week, it was all about Sam and what she had to say, and then by the end of it, we're talking about Kaitlyn and her neurosis and Fessy's chauvinism, and it's just a mess all the way around.
Yes, and people are wondering. I do want to make it clear. I did not get rid of all 1 votes and 10 votes. I can look at each individual's rankings, so I could see that if you put all 1s and all 10s, then I could eliminate all of your votes in particular. You are perfectly fine to cast 1 votes and 10 votes as long as they fit in the voting structure of, like, if you gave Sam a 1 and Bayleigh a 10 and a bunch of other people stuff in the middle, then all of your votes still counted. 1s are still very much in play here. Yes, so Sam's stock has gone down to $2 a share. If you feel good
what
about
did the audience
Sam,
give her?
the audience gave her a 3.
Okay.
Yes. So if you are somebody who feels good about Sam, might be the time to buy. This is probably as low as it's gonna get. But you never know. Let's move on to Kaitlyn, who also had a pretty crazy week this week, and I will say, for myself this week, this is the time that I'm ready to give somebody a 1, because I don't think that Kaitlyn can win this game at this point. Between how she acted with Fessy and how everyone now sees her, they do kind of respect the game that she's playing, but I think that she's going to deny their perspective on the game that she's playing. She's going to continue to say, no, I didn't flip Tyler. No, I didn't control Tyler. She's going to, any goodwill they might have toward her game, she's going to deny, and they're going to hate her for that if she's in the end. And if they don't have any of that goodwill toward her game, they're only going to see her as the person who either made up she had a boyfriend, cheated on her boyfriend, or was just an overall crazy person. I don't think Kaitlyn can win this game, and I think this week absolutely solidified it. Melissa, how do you feel about her?
It's tough because right now the perception that people have of her in the house is that she's some mastermind. So it makes me think that she is doing something right, but at the same time, I don't see her doing really anything right. So with perception in the house, it makes me want to give her a little bit of a higher score. But the fact that she's probably might be going out the door this week, that's not great for her. At this point, just because I feel like things could turn around for her and level 6, if she sticks around, could pull her in. I'm just going to keep my rating at a 3, which is what I had last week.
Yeah, I split the difference between the two of you. I gave her a 2, and I honestly do agree with you, Taran, for the most part. That I probably don't believe that she can win the game at this point. However, two things are working. She's more entertaining than most, and so I felt a little bit more sympathetic to her plight. And she has some fire in her that she could actually get something done if she sets her mind to it. So I do think that she reminds me a little bit of like Austin Madison from 17, where like just whines and wears you down so much, and eventually you might give in to whatever they want you to do. So I don't know if she has that within her, but I do think like it's a tool in her box. So I'll give her a 2 at this point, and we'll see what happens.
All right, so I went down on her by 1. Brent actually went up by 1. He had given her a 1 last week. The audience gave her a 2 last week, and they remained consistent this week, gave her another 2. So bad scores all around for Kaitlyn once again. I believe she is also going to be at $2 here. So if you're a person that thinks Kaitlyn's going to do well, buy up some stock. So let's move on to Rockstar, the other person on the block, looking like she is the one that's going to be voted out this week, at least at the moment. However, she does have a chance to return to the game. Brent currently owns 3 shares of Rockstar stock. So Brent, how are you feeling about that stock right now? What is your Rockstar rating?
I'm going to continue to feel badly about Rockstar, but at this point, I don't see any point in selling the stock because I'm not going to get much for it. I'm going to give her a 2. I'm going to think that she's played this week almost as badly as she could have. However, the reason I didn't give her a 1 is because she has shown the ability, once the game got real for her, to actually talk with people and fake a smile and put up her best campaign and try to stay in the house. She actually has had conversations with Brett and Kaycee and Angela and Tyler, people that she's never talked to before, about why she should stay in the house and how she's not coming after them. The best conversation was her and Tyler talking to each other. Rockstar's like, well, you're not a target for me. I just want you to know that. He's like, well, you're not a target for me. Like, they're lying to their faces, like cold, bald lying, and it was really, really fun to watch. So I give her a little bit of a bump because she has shown that maybe here's the thing. I'm hopeful that she has learned from her mistakes and that she realizes that she has to play better if she wants a chance at this game. The reason I almost gave her a 1 is because in acting the way she did and carrying on for as long as she did, I think she's shown to people like Bayleigh and Scottie, who are otherwise inclined to support her, that she's not really worth fighting for. She's sort of an irregular piece within the game that they can't control. She cannot control her emotions. She's not somebody who, can fake it with most people. And I think they're like, well, why do we need this person around? Why do we need this aggravation? And when your own allies are feeling that way, I don't feel like it's a good look. So that's why I gave her a 2.
Yeah, it's that behavior that you were talking about that has me so down on her chances at this point. It's bad when even like basically every member of your alliance who you're close friends with, the only people that you've ever really even talked to in the house, don't trust you and don't respect your game. Everybody's talking about you as though you couldn't win the game. I think that she is in a very similar spot to Kaitlyn, where it's just so difficult to see her winning. It certainly happened with Josh, but I think it's just so unlikely at this point. I do have to give her a 1. I think that her chances have plummeted with the outbursts that she's caused this week and the distrust that her own alliance has for her. So that is my rating.
Well, so the chat's coming for me a little bit because they're like, well, how did that go, Brent? How did her campaign? Look, it went nowhere, okay? I get that, okay? It went nowhere. They know she's lying. She was dumb enough to tell Angela or Kaycee, I forget which one, that Rockstar said she's coming after Brett and Tyler. Fine. All well and good. But at least she's trying. There's effort there. I mean, she made some mistakes, but she tried, which is more than I can say for many of the people on last season. So that's why I felt a little bit better about her. I'm sorry, what did you give her? her? Did you give her a 1 or 2?
I gave her a 1. And
A 1.
Zeno in the chat saying, Taran giving all 1s and 10s. It was a long con, guys.
I know, right?
No, that was what made it hard to pick out the ones, because like there were legitimately a lot of good reasons to give a lot of people 1s this week. So you really did have to search for the 10s to find them. So Melissa, how do you feel about Rockstar this week?
Not great. I do not feel great about Rockstar this week. Yeah, she has been, playing a little bit nicely. Well, I guess starting back at the beginning of the week, I felt like her reaction to Brett's whole thing was just really bad, and she played it really wrong, and it could have just been something that they laughed off, and instead it turned into this whole saga, and everyone was like annoyed with her, including myself, of her crying and all this stuff. It's like, come on, get over it, and like pick yourself up by your bootstraps and press on and start fighting or whatever. So yeah, that was already bad. Then her campaigning was bad. I mean, because she's saying like one of her selling points is I'm loyal. And so that means she's going to stick with her original alliance and never switch over to your side. Okay, like that makes me really want to keep you. So yeah, she's just really telling them stuff that wouldn't make them want to keep her, like her targets being on their side of the house. It's just all bad. But Annie in the chat points out that banging pots and pans is 100% a proven winning strategy at this point. So, if she wins, then that's why. But yeah, no, I got to give her a 2. I just she's not doing so great.
The best thing that she said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, did Russell ever bang pots and pans? I feel like I might remember him doing that to
Ronnie.
Ronnie.
There was talk of banging pots and pans, but no one really did it, or at least not that I remember. Maybe they did, but
I was going to say that the best thing that Rockstar said to, ironically, was to Brett, where she was like, you don't want an emotional person in jury. You want someone like me who is, strategic and who, it took me a while to wrap my head around it, but that was a game move. You made a, great game move on your part, and I get it now. And you want someone like me to be there voting. And I'm like, that's just hilarious to me that she's trying to claim the mantle of, I'm the logical one. I'm the one who would set aside my feelings and vote without reason, or vote with reason. So I don't know if that's gonna. I mean, again, she's trying, but it's just it wasn't very effective.
Yes, we've very consistently, once again, each gone down 1 point for Rockstar this week. The audience decided to give Rockstar. Last week they gave her a 4. This week down to a 2. So this may have had something to do with me getting rid of those funky votes, or maybe they just were very much down on Rockstar this week. I didn't get rid of that many votes, pretty small number compared to the 1,000-something votes. So I don't think
I love that you're backpedaling already. Yeah.
That much influence, but it's definitely possible because, like I said, I think all but just a couple of the funky votes that were trying to game the system had listed Bayleigh or Rockstar as their favorite player. So that is the one. If any of them are going to be influenced, it would likely be them. But the audience has given her a 2. Rockstar's price now down to $2. All 3 of our people here, Sam, Kaitlyn, and Rockstar, down to $2 this week. So let's move on to the next person up here, Fessy. Let's talk about Fessy, who has had a rough week. Melissa, how do you feel about Fessy this week?
He has not been doing so great this week. At the same time, he won the veto. At the same time, should he have won the veto? I don't know. I don't think it's going to end well for him in regards to whoever he votes out. But I'm not seeing a lot of talk about wanting to get him out, and it seems like he'd probably be able to save himself with a veto. So at this point, I'm not. And I also think he made the right decision in terms of saving Haleigh versus Kaycee. Had to pick down to it. So, I think I'm going to have to give Fessy. I'm just going to keep him at a 4 where I'm at now.
Okay. Brent?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sort of rethinking this a little bit, but I'm going to go with my initial gut, which was I gave him a 1. I did. And here are my reasons. He went into this week as a pretty cool guy. Most people could trust. Not many people think he's that smart. And he proceeded to do the following things. He won a veto that was apparently mental and had questions as a part of it. So he's shown that he's no dummy. So he doesn't have that working for him anymore. He told two different people, two allies of his, that he promised to use the veto on them. And then he told JC that he promised he would, I don't know if he promised he would not use the veto or he promised that he would tell him before he decided what he was going to do with the veto. But I know that there are people in the house here, like Bayleigh, who were talking about the fact that, you can't even trust this dude anymore. I think it was Scottie who was talking about the fact that all the promises that Fessie's making. So that combined with the fact that I don't think someone like him is ever going to get to the end of the game. I'm looking at how his week could have gone better. I honestly can't see a way, again, unless you're talking about him being evicted. I just think he blew up so much of the things that made him good. I feel like he's blown up, and he's also irritated one of his strongest allies in JC. Now I know that JC's in the diary room, laughing about how he's the evil mastermind and he's controlling Fessy. But I do feel like at the end of the day, JC had Fessy's best interests at heart, at least for the time being. And I don't know that necessarily holds true anymore. I think that has been shaken somewhat. So I gave him a 1, and I guess you could talk me into a 2. But I'm going to stick with it. So yeah, there you go.
Fessy had no business winning this veto, and it put him in a very bad spot. You've got Bayleigh now talking about how she doesn't trust him. Everyone's talking about how he promised these two girls the same thing, and he also promised JC that he wouldn't use it, and so he's been lying to everyone. And Bayleigh just today was very frustrated with how Fessy was talking to her, because he was like, shut your mouth about the vote. What are you doing? And she was like, whoa, like, what are you, I see you talking to those women, those girls, the Angela, Rachel, Kaycee people.
And she is in trouble.
She is just, she is pissed about this. So Fessy definitely losing allies. That said, I do feel like he is kind of seen as such a doofus that he's not that big of a threat, and he is the kind of person who could reinvent his image after the if Kaitlyn leave, he could kind of reinvent himself in the same way that people like Brendan, Beast Mode Cowboy, like they kind of were able to reinvent themselves later on in the game. I do see that as a possibility for Fessy, so I have gone down on him this week. I have him at a 2. But not quite at a 1 yet at this point. But I do have him at a 2. The audience last week gave him a 4. Melissa stayed with her rating of 4. Brent and I gave him a 3, so we both went down. The audience this week went down on him as well, and the audience gave Fessy a 3 this week. Interesting rating from the audience there. I wonder what that does to his price. It's going to be $3. It has gone down from 4 to 3. Fessy, the current most expensive stock on the market.
Yeah, I was going to say, so essentially everyone's just playing bad so far.
We're just talking about all the bad players, I guess.
Can somebody name somebody who's been playing good this week? Well, I guess we'll get to them.
Haleigh's stock has been pretty strong here and consistent at $7. So let's get into Haleigh next and talk about how we feel about how Haleigh has been playing this week. Brent, how do you feel about Haleigh?
I feel worse about Haleigh than I did in the past. I do feel like she's handled this week particularly well. But I don't feel like she has as much say-so over the game, and maybe that will come. But I felt better about her in weeks past. Mm-hmm. I felt like she has a winner's chance. I felt like she was one of the people I was considering for a possible winner, and now I do feel like she's sort of on the outside. But I'm trying to point to exactly what has caused me to feel that way. I don't know, because it's not like she's anybody's number one target. I think there are people that enjoy her in the house, and I do think that if the veto was not used, that she would have stayed. So I don't know where it's coming from. I think it's just coming from the fact that she doesn't have a great view on what the workings of the house are right now, and I expected more from her as a fan of the game. So I gave her Fancy Fencerton 5, which is probably the lowest I've ever been on her. And I need to see more from Haleigh, but I'm not. I'm obviously she didn't do anything to mess up her chances. She got somebody to use the veto on her, and she didn't even say to him, use the veto on me. She said, because he said to her, well, do you want me to use it on you? She's like, well, I would like you to use it on me, but if it's not good for your game, you don't have to. I understand. In fact, she almost did it to the point where I felt a little uncomfortable. Don't give him that permission to not use the veto on you. You just want to sprinkle in a little bit of I understand if you don't use it, but you really should use the veto, that kind of thing. So I felt like she did that effectively, but other things I'm not as convinced on, so that's why I gave her a 5.
Yes, interesting statistic. The great Christina Z on Twitter had this very, very cool stats page. I don't even know what this program is, Microsoft Power or something, with tons of very interesting stats from the Stock Watch. One of them is the average ratings that we have given ranked. Melissa and I and the audience all have Tyler as our highest rated person over the course of the previous 3 weeks. Brent was Haleigh up until this week, so that might change things.
Well, that's still the highest rating I've given out so far, so you don't know.
It's possible. It's possible. So, Melissa, how did you feel about Haleigh this week?
Yeah, I didn't feel so great about Haleigh this week. Same as Brent. I had previously felt good about her, and now I don't know. I do feel like she's kind of on the outside of things, and I feel like before I felt like she was kind of in, kind of out, but she could kind of go from group to group, even though she wasn't really voting with them. Now I'm a little. Right now, I don't know, but I don't see her getting out anytime soon. I could totally see her winning, but this week was not as good. I don't feel good about her as last week, so I'm going to give her a 6.
Yeah, I think part of it, too, is that she doesn't have a partner, Taran. Even people like Bayleigh and Scottie have started talking, and, Tyler has had Kaycee and, to a lesser extent, JC now, and Angela and Rachel have something going on. And I feel like Haleigh's best person is Rockstar, but Rockstar is such a volatile presence in the house, even though she probably is loyal, that I don't know if it's worth having her around. And I do feel like that Haleigh doesn't even totally trust Rockstar at this point. I think she trusts her to know that she voted the way she said she voted last week, but I don't know that she trusts her overall in the game to behave how you need to behave if you want to get to the end of Big Brother as a duo. So that's why I don't feel great about Haleigh right now. Well, what do you say?
Yes, I started to go down on her in terms of the rating last week because my estimation of her potential has started to go down, and that's basically remained consistent this week. I think that her position hasn't necessarily fallen any, but my the amount of potential she has in this game, I'm concerned about. I think that she has really gotten too involved in these people that are just a bit of a mess. Tyler's definitely involved with a lot of messy people, but he at least has some actual allies on the side. And as you mentioned, Brent, she's so hooked up with all of these, she doesn't have any solid allies that she can rely on that trust her. So I'm gonna stick with a 6. I still feel like she's one of the better players in the house, but not quite as high as the 7s that I was giving her previously. The audience previously gave her a 6. That was last week, and they also remained consistent with a 6 this week. So the audience feeling also kind of just slightly above average on Haleigh. So interestingly, the person Brent is highest on overall is he's the lowest on her this week, and her price has gone down to $6. So maybe this could be a trend, or maybe this is the opportunity to pick up some Haleigh stock. Let's talk about Tyler next. Tyler, the guy who is, he is the one that everyone except for Brent is the highest on. He is the one that we were all kind of lower on last week because it seemed like things were going wrong for him, but then nothing went wrong for him. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see where his stock goes from here. Melissa, where do you feel like Tyler sits in this moment?
You know, I think he's doing pretty well this week. I don't think, I guess, I don't know. It's hard for me to say because the perception of him in the house is not super great in terms of the fact that they think that he's just a dummy in regards to winner potential. But I do think that's also good for his game right now that they don't think that he's the one pulling the strings because then otherwise, he'd be found out. So, I think he's definitely better than last week. It's going to go really wrong for him and that, it was over. But I don't think he's doing as well as I thought he was doing the first couple weeks. So I'm going to go up, but I'm going to give him a 7.
All right, Brent, where do you fall on Tyler?
I mean, I do feel a little bit of improvement this week. I gave him a 4 last week, and I'm going to give him a 5 this week. I just continue to believe that his game is going to unravel, that it has started to already. I do think there are more people in the house. And I hear what you're saying, Taran, that the people are blaming Kaitlyn, but I do think there are some hearts and minds out there that blame Tyler. And I do think that of the people that are in the house right now, he is going to be number 1 or number 2 on the target list if, side B, Faute, wins head of household. And I also continue to believe that the women of level 6 will be more in the back of the firing line. So I do think that the Tylers and Bretts of the world are going to get the brunt of any initial resistance. And I also do feel like it's a bad look when Scottie and Bayleigh are both onto you. Like Scottie and Bayleigh both independently have felt uneasy about Kaitlyn and Tyler even Scottie has felt uneasy about Tyler to an extent on his own. So I think he's played this okay in that he's trying to play in a week where that the person is probably coming back and you have more information than other people, or at least he did for a while. And you're a fan of the show, so you probably understand at this point that it's not a battle back. However, he doesn't know for sure what's happening. So I do feel like I said before that I didn't think he would be able to hide his cards, and yet he effectively was able to, and he's a damn good liar. So I'll give him credit for that. Doom has said in the chat that his conversation with JC a few moments ago was apparently not good. So, the thing about JC is that he knows where all the bodies are buried. So I don't think that's good for Tyler in the long run if he does lose JC. And I also can see JC sort of taking the place of Swaggy and that sort of group over there and calling the shots. I feel like JC wants to call the shots, but we'll get to him. But I think for Tyler's game specifically, that's not good. So that's why I continue to feel lower about him than the rest of you. And I gave him a 5.
All right. I think that, I felt like his game was headed toward disaster last week. It did not happen. I think that yes, there are people that are talking about Tyler, but the people that would actually put Tyler up, I think there's 3 of them maybe, of the many people that are going to play HOH next week. And of those 3, only one of them would even want to target him. And that one person I think is Rockstar. And that person is potentially leaving this week. I don't feel that bad about Tyler. I think his flaws stand out a lot more because of how good of a position he's in. So I have him bouncing back to an 8 for myself. I think that he is still in a very good spot. Nobody sees exactly what he's been doing. They're targeting Kaitlyn over him. They're targeting Brett over him. I think that this has been a very good week for Tyler. I think the work that he put in to hide the fact that he voted the way that he did was very good. I feel like he is potentially going to, again, be on the right side of this vote, which is going to be very good. He's going to be able to pull Kaitlyn further away from the other side. He's going to really solidify her on his side there. And you know, I just think that he still has the power. I think that that Tyler is easily one of the two players in this game that is running the game, and that is in the best spot in the game. And I don't think it's particularly close. And so yeah, I had him at a 6 last week, and he's back up to not quite the level that he was before. I had him at 9s the previous weeks, the first 2 weeks, but I do feel like he is settling into an 8, and I feel like he's in general an 8 player. So a week that goes really well for him, it would probably go higher than that, and a week that goes poorly went down to a 6. But you know, there's always a chance that things go terribly wrong, and the stock could crash. But yes, I am up from a 6 from last week. Brent is up from a 4 from last week to a 5, and Melissa is up from a 6 to a 7. The audience gave Tyler a 6 last week, and this week they gave him a 7. There you go.
All right.
It's very close to an 8. It's a 7.4. So
that's all my doing.
On the edge there. So there we go. Tyler's stock is at $7 this week. All right, let's move on to JC. JC in a very interesting spot here, trying to make sure Kaitlyn goes home this week. Brent, how do you feel about JC?
I felt relatively good about him until he started opening his mouth over the past 24 hours. Like, it's almost like the less you know about someone, the better you feel about them. Like I was able to place all of the good ideas I have about like what I think a good Big Brother player is onto the avatar that was JC when I didn't know everything that he was thinking. But now that I know everything that he's thinking, I'm feeling less positive about him. I don't feel great overall about his chances to win. On the other hand, I don't know anybody that's necessarily coming after him. Like, I feel like in the end he won't be able to get it over the finish line, but I'm looking at this week and I do think he's done things that will harm his game in the long run, but I don't know who it will harm first, because I don't this dissonance between him and Tyler is obviously a bit of an issue, and I don't know if it will hurt Tyler or hurt JC or hurt neither. If you had to, hold a gun to my head, I think it will probably hurt Tyler more, but I do think there's a possibility that it'll hurt JC if the alliance sees that he's not really working with them anymore and they decide that he's expendable. But on the other hand, again, he knows where the secrets are. He knows what happened during week 1. He knows how that happened. He knows what happened during week 2, that it was all planned. He knows what happened during week 3, who voted which way. Of course, he's part of that. He's one of the people lying about his votes, and he has emphatically said to Fessy, I didn't vote that way. I voted with you guys. Of course, that's a lie. So he would have to own it in order to out Tyler, but he may be able to make it look like Tyler and Kaitlyn. So I do feel relatively good about his game. I'm unsure he can win, so that's why I gave him a 5. I'm a little bit down on him from last week where I gave him a 6. And this is probably the week where, because of the weird circumstances in play where somebody's coming back, I've given more people 5s than I think I ever have before, because usually I don't like to give people 5s because I feel like that's basically saying nothing. But I do feel like his game is at a 5 right now. It could go any which way.
All right, Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I felt good about him near the beginning of the week when he was able to successfully lie about the vote and no one found him out. I felt really good about him then. And then, yeah, like Brent said, the more he's kind of talked this week and the more he's campaigned, I've been a little bit worried about him. So I'm kind of on the fence. So I'm just going to keep my score from last week and give him a 6 again.
All right. I have gone down on JC this week. It's not looking great for JC. I do like what he maybe did during the veto ceremony. That's kind of badass. But it's not looking great for him. I don't like how aggressive he is in getting Kaitlyn out on a week that doesn't even matter. It's looking like he might be on the wrong side of this vote and really pushing for a failing cause, which is very bad. The breakup with Tyler is going to be very bad for him, I think. It's even gotten to a point where Fessy is kind of not trusting what JC is saying as much. Fessy is starting to doubt JC because of how mad that JC got at him. So I don't like this direction that Jaycee is going in. I feel like this could be the start of a very downhill slope for him. I also went with a 5 for Jaycee, down from a 6. But I think this could continue to go down depending on how this all plays out heading into next week. The audience gave Jaycee a 5 last week. We'll see if they went down as well. The audience gave Jaycee a 6 this week. The audience is up on Jaycee.
Amazing.
Very interesting. That surprises me. So the audience feeling better about Jaycee than before. That's I don't know. Does that surprise you, Melissa?
No, because they voted the same as my score, so
there you go.
It makes sense to me.
All right, let's move on to Angela, who I personally felt like Angela had a good week. I really do. I think that I talked about it this morning on the update. I feel like Angela has done really well with her relationship with Rachel, keeping that a secret. She's been doing good work when it came to influencing Sam. She is doing good work when it comes to presenting the women as a viable option for Bayleigh and Scottie to jump over. So I actually do like what's happening with Angela. She is not anyone's main target at this point. I don't see her going home anytime soon. I think that she can do well in competitions if she is trying to. So further down the line, I think that she's starting to become in a similar position to Rachel, only with the two of them together working in tandem and working in secret. I think that they're doubly as dangerous. So I went up from a 4 on Angela. I think she's been a 4 for the past 3 weeks for me. She's finally up to a 6. I think that this is the week where she's truly starting to shine a bit, and it could be the week where things really start looking up. So if anyone bought Angela prior to this, maybe they're getting a good deal. But Brent, tell me if that's true or not. What did you give Angela?
I actually gave her a 7. I was even more impressed, and I think probably it's partly the bell curve of it all. Like, I'm grading her based on her past, like how I thought she was going to behave to how she's behaving now. But I really was impressed by her over the past 48 hours, just to watch how, first of all, she's a good alliance member. She keeps things secret. I love her and Rachel plotting together. It's something that I do feel like it's a joint effort, even though that Rachel is probably more of the fan. I do think that they both have equal input into that partnership. And along with Kaycee, I do feel like the three of them will be able to go far in the game. I don't know who ultimately Kaycee would side with. Would she side with Brett and Tyler, or would she side with the girls? But I have a feeling she would probably side with the girls. And I like what I'm seeing from the furniture at this point. I think it's possible that on finale night you could see, like, I don't know, Jaycee sitting next to an empty sofa. I think it would be. That's my joke about Angela. But I think she's playing well, and I gave her a 7. I think that. I did not think that it was possible that somebody who was this seemingly shallow, not just when it comes to life, but almost when it comes to the game, could have this amount of game within her. And it does seem like, I don't know if she's someone like Paul from 18 who's sort of learning as she goes, but it does seem like she has picked up some things about, what you want to have happen in the game, who you want to keep in, why you want to keep people in, who you need to let go, what you need to do in the short term and the long term in order to better yourself and your ultimate positioning in the game. And I do feel better about where she is. So I gave her a 7.
All right. We'll go to the audience before Melissa this time. We'll shake things up a little bit. The audience gave Angela a 4 last week. I think they've been pretty consistent with giving her 4s. Brent, by the way, had her at a 3 last week. She jumped up 4 points for Brent. The audience this time gave Angela a 5. So they haven't moved quite as drastically, but they have gone up 1 point. So
it was close.
Slow moving.
I thought about giving her a 6, but I gave her a 7, Melissa, mainly because I was just so impressed. I was like, wow, I had no idea that you could actually play the game, girl. So go, All
right,
yeah,
Melissa.
Until I see her do something, I can't give her a good score. maybe I'm not looking for it, but I'm not seeing anything from her. And like, yeah, she's not the next target or whatever, but I just don't know if she's like has it in her, and I haven't seen enough to see to determine that she does have it in her. So I'm keeping her at a 4.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. As far as like what she's done, I feel like she's able to keep secrets that she needs to keep, and she's able to tell people and double deal where she needs to double deal. And I don't feel like I mean, you look like somebody like Fessy who's completely incapable of doing something like that. It warms my heart to see her play the game a little bit and know what basically who to lie to, and that it's okay to lie to people, and that someone's telling you something to your face and not take it at face value, and run back and tell the people that you need to tell, and don't tell people that you don't need to tell. That was always my problem with Rockstar, that she, even before the whole thing with the pots and pans, she opened up her mouth to anybody who would listen. It didn't matter if it was an alliance member or a foe that was in the room. She'd just tell anybody that Scottie was an evil mastermind genius. And that's why I hated her game so much. But Angela doesn't do shit like that. So that's why.
I know. I guess my concern with Angela is like whether she's actually keeping these secrets because she knows that she shouldn't tell anyone, or whether she just doesn't care enough to just like tell anyone anything. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen enough from her to know whether or not it's that she actually knows the game and is laying low, or if she's like, I don't really care. So like, I'm not super into it, but if you talk with me, like I'll talk back. I don't know. I don't know yet. So I don't feel good enough about her game in order to give her a better score.
All right, let's talk about her other half, Rachel. Rachel, who we've been pretty consistently high on so far. Angela went up from $4 to $6. Rachel was already at $6. And I am going to remain pretty consistent with Rachel here and also give her a 6. If anything, I might start to go lower on Rachel in the future than Angela, because Angela is less of a target than Rachel at this point. But I do feel like Rachel, I am more confident in her killer instinct. So, I think it evens out to about the same for now. So I'm going to give Rachel a 6. Melissa, how do you feel about Rachel?
I feel good about Rachel. I like the way that she's bonding with everybody in the house. I see her bonding with people on the other side of the house, people on her side of the house. I could see people wanting to work with her if it came down to it, whereas I don't necessarily know if people feel bonded enough with like Angela or some of the other people on the other side. But I think Rachel's really putting the work in, and I like what she's doing, and I think she's smart in the game, and I think she knows kind of the direction that she's supposed to be going in. So I'm going to give her a 7.
Yeah, I also gave her a 7, and that's what I gave her last week. I felt consistently good about Rachel. I still feel good about her. The thing with her is that there is one person who's targeting her, and that's JC. JC does not like Rachel very much, and he's willing to tell a lot of people that. However, Rachel, for her part, is thinking that they really need to get out Scottie, because she has this view of Scottie that he's sort of like Steve from 17, who got rid of Jackie, who is Rachel's good friend. You remember how Jackie was targeted during the double eviction out of nowhere by Steve Moses, and that's what Rachel has thought about as far as when it comes to Scottie. So she's not really reading things correctly, because Scottie was just talking to Bayleigh earlier today that he really likes those girls and wants to work with them long term. So she's letting past be prologue, or whatever that phrase is, in a way where that she needs to make sure that like from her perspective, she's like, I don't want that to come true. I need to make sure that I am not ultimately done in by the same way that my friend Jackie was. But I think in sort of manifesting that, she might even make it a reality. So I don't like seeing that from her. However, I do feel good about her prospects long term. And like Taran said, I do feel good about her math aside. I do feel good about her killer instincts. So I give her a 7.
All right. So Brent remaining consistent with Rachel, giving her a 7. Melissa has gone up. The audience gave her a 6 last week. This week, they gave her a 6 once again. So The price is going to go back up to $7 for Rachel, back up from $6 because of Melissa, who went up on her this week. And we'll move forward to Bayleigh next. Bayleigh, who is another person kind of similar to Angela at this point, whose stock price has gone up. It started at 5, it went up to 7 last week, and we'll see where it goes for this week. Melissa, we'll start with you. How do you feel about Bayleigh this week?
I feel good about Bayleigh again this week. I feel like she. I'm a bit worried for her for this vote because I don't really know how it's going to go. But I like the way that she's been bonding with the level 6 people. However, I'm a little worried that she's too trusting of them and thinks that they would actually be loyal to her, which I don't necessarily see them doing. But at the same time, I can see, that being helpful to her moving forward. So I'm just going to keep my rating consistent with a 7.
All right, Brent.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Melissa again. Even though I gave an 8 to Bayleigh last week, I do feel a little bit uneasy about her game this week, mainly because she and Fessy have not been exactly in a concert together, and that is bad for her game because he knows that she has a power. I don't think ultimately he would reveal it, but it's sort of, she's put herself in a bad spot where she has to be nice to Fessy. She can't drop him even if she wants to. Even if she wants to vote against that side, she's probably going to have to tell Fessy. He's not going to be happy about it, because you don't want him to say anything about that and out you. I mean, the worst thing for Bayleigh would be to be backdoored because then her power couldn't do anything. And, if he outs her at that point, that would be terrible. So I do feel a little bit uneasy. However, I'm asking myself, has she played any worse than people? Sorry, I just spit all over my microphone. Than people like Rachel? The answer is no. I think she's played about the same game as Rachel has this past week. So I would give her a 7.
I feel great about Bayleigh. I feel like I talked about with Tyler that I think that there are 2 people that are head and shoulders above the rest right now, and I think that Bayleigh is that other person. I think that especially her adaptability this week to know that to vote, even though she's been wanting Kaitlyn out, to know that maybe siding with the other side and getting rid of Rockstar, especially on a week where she might not even go home, it really puts her in a great spot. It puts her in the middle of 2 alliances, where the level 6 side feels very good with her, and those women from level 6, especially Rachel and Angela, could at some point see Bayleigh as their opportunity to turn on the men in level 6. So even though they don't trust her right now, even though she's at the bottom of that alliance right now, that doesn't matter because she can survive in that spot for a long time. There are plenty of other people to get out for now, especially if she's taking JC's spot, which I've talked about before. I thought was a really good spot. And so I think that this is really positioning her well. I do also like that she is now Scottie's biggest ally, it seems. Scottie is giving her the most amount of information. He's one of the, say what you will about what this means for the house, but one of the people in the house that knows the most about what's going on, even though he obviously doesn't realize how much Rachel is coming after him. And he's one of the best people to bounce ideas off of. He's also good at competitions. He's going to protect her in that sense. He's also going to be, I think, easily influenced by her, which I think is going to be very good moving forward. So also, again, add on to the fact that she has a power, a very powerful power, the most powerful power in the house. And I think that all adds up to, easily one of the best positions in the house. I would even go as far as to say she's in a better spot than Tyler, just not quite enough better to get her a full point higher. But if I had it's like 8 point something, then her 8 point something is higher than Tyler's 8 point something. So I'm going to give Bayleigh an 8 out of 10. And that is my view on Bayleigh. I had previously given her a 7. So I have gone up. The audience last week gave her a 7, and this week a 7 once again. And wow. Barely a 7 too. That's 6.5 there. So the audience staying consistent. Again, this I don't think this would have influenced it this much, but there's definitely a possibility that these kind of like people trying to game the system had sort of inflated the vote prior to this. So we'll see how that affects things moving forward. So Bayleigh at $7 right now, staying consistent with her previous price. Let's move on to Scottie, who we had kind of fallen down on last week, But this week, I don't know. Maybe things are looking back up for Scottie. I personally feel like they have. But Melissa, how do you feel?
I feel better about Scottie. I mean, last week I was very concerned for him. I mean, when he was HOH, I was really worried about what the fallout from that was going to be. And, you know, I didn't know how the house was going to maybe accept him back in or not. Who knows? And he's really just like slid back under the radar this week. So I think he's done a really good job. And now that he's kind of teamed up with Bayleigh, I think that that's a good thing for him. And I also feel like he's one of the few people who seem to kind of know, well, recognize who the strong players are. So that's something that I think it has been good. I know I keep cutting out. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, this has been a tough day for me and my podcasting, but I'm going to go up with Scottie and give him 6. Did you get that?
Was that a 6?
A 6.
All
Guys,
right.
darn it.
We need that
so
GoFundMe.
frustrating.
We need the GoFundMe for that. For
I will buy one. I will figure out a way to do this, but this has been a tough podcast. Everyone's like, why is Melissa so quiet? It's like, because I literally don't know when I can talk or when I shouldn't talk or what. So sorry about that, everyone.
Now you know what it's like to be a robot. That's
I
probably
guess
how Sam felt.
Now I feel like Sam.
Yeah.
I get it.
I also gave Scottie a 6 this week. I was very down on his position last week. I gave him a 3 before because I felt like he was in a very bad spot with the move that he made. He was still lying to Faute at the time. They weren't trusting him. He was making a big move against level 6 and against Tyler's wishes. And I felt like this was all leading to a very bad position for Scottie. But I feel like things are looking up this week. Some stuff happened that really just took the spotlight right off of Scottie between Brett and the Rockstar thing, and then Sam winning the HOH, which was fantastic for him because she was one of the few people who would never put Scottie on the block because she loves him so much, and he was lucky that how much he felt betrayed by her never got back to her because she certainly would have felt upset if she found that out. And then between now Sam using the all this drama with Sam and then the power and now this split vote, and it's looking like he might follow Bayleigh alongside her to get on the correct side of this vote, so he would probably be in a decent place with Kaitlyn. The only person he really needs to worry about, I think, is Rachel. And Rachel might be influential for the level 6 people, and I think she is also one of the more likely people to win HOH, so I think that is a great danger for him, and it's why he's not higher for me. But I feel like he has definitely bounced back, and I do feel good about him moving forward, so I gave him a 6. Brent, how about you?
I also gave him a 6, and I also gave him a 3 last week, and I have doubled on him since then. I think coming clean to Bayleigh was so great, and it's something that a lot of people don't do in the house. Like, I think there was a moment in time where Kaitlyn could have owned her vote during week 1 and said, you know, I did this, but she told a few people, but she never really owned it. It was sort of like passing the buck. Well, Tyler told me this, and there was this power. Like, she never owned it. And I feel like if you own your stuff in the Big Brother house, it's always better than if you don't. And Scottie, I know that Bayleigh already knew that he was the one who did not vote for Swaggy, that said he did, but to actually tell her, I think was a really good move because, as you noted on the podcast, Taran, that would have always been something in their way if they wanted to work together long term. She would have always worried about that. So I was glad to see that. Also, I will say this, that I know that we have dogged many people on this podcast, Tyler, about this stupid plan he had to not come clean after the vote, that he was definitely going to be outed, Brett's stupid plan, Scottie's stupid plan. But I will say this, that in a house where there is drama on a daily basis, it gives you a lot more freedom to play more messy because people, it's almost like the political world we live in. Like, I mean, this isn't a political commentary by me, but it's just more of just the way I see things in the world. I do think that there's so many things that happen with the current president of the United States that it's almost like you don't know where to look. And I do feel like in some ways the Big Brother house is kind of like that. There's so many things happening in it and so much drama happening that some of the like minutia about, well, who voted for who during week 2 just sort of, even though you think that's a big deal, like it ends up getting lost in the shuffle because there are so many other things to worry about. So that's why I feel like that some people are going to continue to get away with what ordinarily would probably be a bad move. So I feel great about Scottie's chances. I do worry about him and Rachel. That's so odd that she carries that Steve Moses bias with her. But other than that, I feel great. So I gave him a 6.
All right. So, yeah, I was looking at the stock holdings, and then all of a sudden Brent was talking about politics, and I was like, "Wait, what's going on?
What's happening?"
I was just having a conversation with a friend, like that's the thing with the president, that there's so much stuff happening, you just don't know where to look sometimes. That's why people forgive so much of it, because there's just so much of it. And it's not like one big scandal. There's just 20 scandals. So it's like, just more of the same, Yeah.
No, I agree. That's totally what it's like in the house. And it's very different from last season. So if anyone last season, if any of these plans had tried to happen last season, I mean, that would have been the talk for the entire season. So, it's very different gameplay this season. And we can't really judge it based on, what's normal in the Big Brother house or what's not. And I feel like we have to be more clearly this stuff doesn't matter. There's just so much going on that it doesn't matter who voted for who. Literally, it seems like week 1 is so long ago and forgotten, and week 2 is so long ago and forgotten. It's just every week, the previous week kind of gets pushed to the side because there's new things going on.
Yeah, just really quickly, I just watched the season 19 finale again, and there was the point in time where Julie said, well, Paul, you weren't the only one who was sneaky, and then she showed the goodbye messages with Josh and everything, and Paul's mouth was on the floor and shaking his head, and if something like all of the stuff that's happening in the house right now, there's so much messiness and so many things that are going to get back to people. It just reminds me of how much that didn't happen last year, because if Josh had ever tried to tell people on the way out of the house, oh, by the way, we're in an alliance together. I'm working with Christmas right now. That's why we had to get rid of you. He would have been targeted by Paul, or at least he would have gotten a stern talking to and maybe scared the shit out of him. But this season, everybody they're playing hard and they don't care, and it's really, really wonderful to see.
Yes. All right. So last week, the audience gave Scottie a 6. They were by far the highest on him last week.
I gave him a 3 last week.
Yes.
Wow. Where were you guys?
They were much higher on him. This week, they also gave Scottie a 6. So they never wavered. They were always confident in Scottie. So that's going to be Scottie's price for the week. Straight 6s all the way around. All right, let's go to Brett, who had a very interesting week this week. Brent, how do you feel about Brett's game?
I don't feel great about it. I think that overall he's probably going to be the first or second target. In fact, I think he's probably going to be the first. Well, no, I'll say first or second target of many people on the Faute side of things. I think they give him far more credit than he deserves. And I do feel like that he's going to ultimately be seen as threatening by the women in the alliance if it ever gets to that point. I mean, if level 6 remains somewhat intact moving forward, I do feel like the Rachels and Angelas of the world will look at Brett before they ever look at someone like Tyler. So I don't feel great about him overall. I will say, carried himself with a lot of decorum, amongst the whole lie with Rockstar and all the stuff that she was doing with him. So I did feel good for him in that respect, but overall, I don't like what I'm seeing from him, and I don't like his chances in the game. So I did. I think I went down. I gave him a 4. I don't know if that was down from last week or not, but
last week you gave him a 6.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I gave him a 4 this week. I don't feel great overall. I do feel like he'll be targeted sooner than later. I see him as juror number 1 or 2.
All right. I feel better about Brett than I did last week. Last week I gave him a 4. I feel like I learned some things about Brett, that he is a little bit cooler under pressure than I might have expected. He's surprisingly a better liar than I would have expected. And also, the Brett is a mastermind stuff is definitely still in people's heads, but he definitely does have less of a target on him than he did when Winston was still in the house. And I think that's all good stuff for for Brett. So I went up from a 4 to a 5 for Brett. I still think he's one of the biggest targets in the house, and that's not great for him. It's hard to see him making it all the way down to the end before getting picked off. But I have him at a 5 here. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard for me to determine how I feel about Brett right now because I feel like he handled the Rockstar situation, or when she was like coming at him with the pots and pans, like pretty well. He handled the aftermath pretty well. He made her look really bad, but at the same time, like he started that whole thing, and I don't know really necessarily if he needed to, but then at the same time, he did create a big target out of Rockstar. So I'm struggling to understand like whether that was good or bad, and it's hard to say just yet whether it's good or bad because there's so much other things going on like we talked about. So yeah, I do think that he's still considered a big threat, and I think that people are still going to come after him, and he's still a target. So even though maybe he painted a target onto Rockstar, he didn't quite get rid of the target from himself. So I'm just going to keep him at a 5.
All right. The audience last week gave Brett a 4. They were not very high on Brett. I mean, he might have. It might have been looking like he had. We knew that Winston was going to go at this point last week, but they were down on Brett last week. They gave him a 4. This week, up by 2 points to a 6. The audience much higher on Brett this week. They must feel bad for him and his micropenis.
Well, I think part of it is that they don't have as much hate for him as maybe they did. I mean, like, I know like a week ago I was looking at, Brett and Winston, like, these two doofuses, and, I'm looking at Rockstar like a queen. A week later, I'm like, he's not such a bad guy, and she can kind of be a little bit of a bitch. So, like, I mean, like, the lines are blurred a little bit for me. I mean, just so you guys know, I love Rockstar, but she was a little bit saltier than I thought she would ever be about that. And really, it's like, it was what I wanted to just shake her at one point and go like, girl, it's a game. Like, it's a game.
She
Stop thinking about it personally.
so poorly.
Yeah, she's just holds on to stuff. My God. Anyway.
Yeah, it made her look really bad.
Yeah.
Just really bad.
All right, let's move on to our final person here, Kaycee, who I think for me has just remained consistent, continuing to prove her worth in this house. Still have the same worries as I have previously. I don't know if the killer instinct is there, but she is very good at what she does. She's been very effective at pulling Bayleigh over. If the vote ends up coming down against Rockstar, I think that Kaycee is probably the person most responsible for that. And so I am going to remain consistent with Kaycee and give her a 7. Once again, I feel like she is the best like non-mover and shaker in the house, and she's going to be there for a while. Melissa, how do you feel about Kaycee?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think she's doing a good job. I think that I think she's probably Tyler's closest ally in the house, which is good for her. And she also has the level 6 girls, as well as level 6 generally. And she's also seems to be making friends with the other side of the house. Everybody's consistently said good things about her and that they really like her and that nobody wants to get her out. They don't want to target her. They think of her in a very positive way, which I think is very good for her at this point. So I'm going to give her a 7.
Yeah, I gave her a 7 last week, and I'm going to stick with it this week. I feel great about her overall. In fact, if you made me pick a winner right now, I think she's probably it. I think she carries herself very well in the Big Brother house. I think she has enough strategy, enough personality, enough wherewithal about her. I know that Taran has worried, and I have worried about the killer instinct in the past, but I saw her perform during that endurance competition, and she really looked like she knew what she was doing up there. I mean, she was in it to win it until Kaitlyn fell off, and so I do like the audacity of her where she waited for Kaitlyn to fall off, and you could tell even in the editing, like, she fell off right away. I mean, it was like Kaitlyn and then Kaycee. Like, I mean, so she basically told Kaitlyn, like, hey, like, I was just holding on. I mean, she can try to say, it was happenstance that I fell at the same time, but that's all she cared about. So I like that kind of ballsiness. So I felt good about her. I probably would give her an 8 if she was a little bit more entertaining, but Sorry.
All right. So the audience last week gave Kaycee a 7. This week, a little bit lower on Kaycee. They gave her a 6 this time. They've gone down. Maybe her visibility, maybe the spike from last week, the excitement has died off a little bit. But Kaycee has gone down with the audience to a 6, but her price will remain there at a 7. So there we go. That is the finalized stock watch numbers here. The numbers have been finalized, and now it's time to buy some of these people, or sell if you want to sell at this point. Brent currently holds 3 shares of Rockstar. It is possible that Rockstar leaves the game Thursday night and he could lose all of that. So we'll start with you, Brent. Are you going to hold on to that Rockstar stock, or are you going to try and get whatever it's worth out of it?
Well, considering if we sell it back, we only get half of what it's currently priced at, right? Is that
yes.
Is that how it works?
So you would
okay,
get
cool.
$1 per.
Yeah, because it's at $2 right now. Exactly, it's not even worth it at this point. I'm gonna keep my lottery tickets in Rockstar. And I'm almost inclined to sell one of them because I don't think either one of you would ever buy. I don't think you would ever try to buy them, but I can also see in you, like, later on down the line, you might take a flyer on her. So I'm going to stick with all 3 of those. And I'm actually going to buy some Kaycee stock. So you can put me down for 1 Kaycee stock at $7. I do not currently own any. Taran does own 1 share of Kaycee stock, so that will leave us tied for the moment. And I'm also going to buy. This is crazy, I know, but I'm going to buy some Kaitlyn stock.
Oh.
I know, right? Taran also owns Kaitlyn stock, so I'm going to buy some Kaitlyn stock as well. I'm not trying to mirror everything that you're doing, but that's just sort of happenstance at this point. I'm definitely not buying Tyler, which you have, and I'm trying to decide if I wanted to buy anything else. Let's see. That leaves me with. Trying to look at, so that's $7 and $2, so that leaves me, I had 18, so that would leave me with $9. Okay, so I have $9 left, and I think I'm just going to leave it right there. So that's all the purchasing I will be doing. Pat, back to you.
All right, Melissa, have you decided?
Yeah, I'm gonna buy a Kaycee stock.
Okay.
I like what she's doing, and I want to buy some stock.
Everyone copying my week 1 Kaycee purchase. I was in on that early.
Yeah.
Is that all you're gonna do, or are you gonna do anything else?
Gosh.
Well,
so you
I have $7
yes,
left.
You have $7
right?
left. You started with 14. You just spent 7.
Nope. I think I'm just gonna do that.
All right.
$7 in the bank.
Taran, you currently have $20 left, so you have the most out of all of us going in, because I started the week with $18. We just, for everybody who's playing along, we have the money that we have left over from the previous week, which has to be $10 or under, and then whenever we go into a new week, we get $10 more. So Taran had $20, I had 18, Melissa had 14, and we have now done our buying. Taran has $20. He has to spend at least $10. And what are you going to do?
Well, you guys, you're trying to match me at Kaycee. So I think I'm going to pick up another Kaycee, and then I'm going to fill out the rest of that $10 with a $3 Fessy stock. And then I'll stop again at $10 and hold out there. So I'll maintain the lead with Kaycee, and then just pick up one of those cheap Fessy stocks. You never know.
There's no way he's winning this game. Come on. I'll have a bridge to sell you. Yeah.
You just bought a Kaitlyn, so what are you gonna do?
I know.
All right. So there's the stock watch for the week. There were some bonus questions, but I also want to again shout out the Christina Z's stat power presentation thing. Check her out on Twitter. She tweeted this out. It's very interesting. Lots and lots of very interesting stats. There's these rankings in terms of the average rating so far. Like I said, Brent's is interesting. Haleigh and Rachel are at the top of Brent's ratings right now, followed by Bayleigh, JC, Brett, Kaycee, and then Tyler at 7th, and Scottie at 8th. That's how Brent has things. I have Tyler, Haleigh, Brett, Kaycee, Rachel, Bayleigh, JC, and Scottie. These are going to change for this week, but just some interesting. Or sorry, that was Melissa's ratings, not mine.
Well, I didn't even listen to them.
you have access to this too. Lots of interesting stuff in terms of who had the highest stock price when they were HOH, when they were nominated, when they were evicted. Who's lost the most amount of money? Who was the biggest steal in the draft? That was JC by Brent. The biggest flop was obviously Winston by me. That shouldn't be surprising, but it's played out in the numbers. And it's all very pretty and visually interesting. So I highly recommend checking this out. Really cool. Yes. So let's also let's get out of this view here. And go back.
By the way, I was really quickly because if people listen to this in the archive, they're going to have a question about it because the chat is going berserk about it, or they were going berserk about it. When I bought Kaitlyn stock, they don't understand how I'm buying the people that I give a low rating to. Well, I mean, I'm trying to evaluate their games in a vacuum, like how are they doing, and then I'm looking at if things fall right. Basically, I have a universe of people that I think can probably win the game, and then a universe of people that if things go exactly right, they could win the game. And I feel like last year, if things go exactly right, Josh wins the game, and he did. Like Rockstar would be in that category. Like I feel like if things go exactly right for her, she could win the game. But there are other people that I feel a little bit better about, and even though I share your distaste for what Kaitlyn has done to her game through this point, I do feel relatively good. If it turns around, I feel good about her long term. She could also go out in a week and a half. You know what I mean? So that's why I bought her, but the chat doesn't seem to understand why. Like they're just like, how is he buying her? Like what? I do like Michael's comment in the chat that said Brent had a hit and Uncle Lou said to buy Kaitlyn.
All right. There were also some bonus questions on the form for the Stock Watch this week. I asked, the first one was, how would you rate this season overall so far? 1 out of 10. And the audience has rated the season a 9 out of 10 so far. And so I think this is going to be an interesting thing to track week to week. We'll see if it goes up or down as we go along. But I'm pretty on board with that rating. I think that it's been a very good season. And I think that that most people agree. Most of the ratings are 9s and 10s. Great season so far. The audience is liking it. I also asked, who is your favorite player? Which I also asked last week. Last week, Tyler was in the lead with 35% of the vote. I did not remove any votes from this category, so this is not corrected or anything like that. Tyler is still in the lead this week. His numbers have actually improved. He had 39% of the vote this time. And last time, Bayleigh was in second with 11%, and she's still there at 11%. And then I believe it was Haleigh in third with 9%, and Haleigh's in third again with 10%. So for the most part, people are remaining the same. They have their favorites, and they're sticking with them. Tyler has grown a bit, but apart from that, it looks pretty consistent here. Any surprises, Brent? Anyone you want to know what their percentage is?
I would be interested to see how Scottie is doing because I have a feeling that many people in the audience probably like him because he targeted the bros. But on the other hand, we didn't feel necessarily good about his overall game last week. So what's going on with him?
Scottie is, it looks like, in fourth place with 8% of the vote. Last week he had 7% of the vote, so he has gone up a little bit. But not anything crazy. But he has gone up a little bit.
Did Sam drop?
Did Sam drop? That's a good question. Let's see. Week 3, Sam had 5% of the vote. Week 4, Sam has, this has definitely dropped, 2.7% of the vote. So basically, Sam's numbers have dropped in half. People who she was their favorite last week, half of them have decided no more. Sam is no longer my favorite. Yes.
What are the bottom 3?
The bottom 3, it looks like.
Wait, let me try to guess.
Okay.
Wait. So I'm gonna say, who are the 3 most unpopular people that people would never vote for? I think no, I think they would vote for. I think some people like Fessy. I would say Angela, Kaycee.
They liked her last time.
Maybe. And hell, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You are correct with Angela.
Angela?
Did you say Brett?
Yeah, Brett.
Angela has 1.8% of the vote. She is the third from last. Fessy is, in fact, second to last at 1.2% of the vote.
Good job, Melissa. Yeah.
Fessy was the lowest at 1.2.
Oh, lowest. Okay,
I skipped one. This one is kind of crazy, actually. Rockstar, second to lowest person here, 1.5% of the vote. She has dropped considerably. Wow. She had 7% of the vote last week. So people are jumping off of the Rockstar train.
That is not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all.
I just... Well, I don't know why I was really like, I expected her to be more of a bitch queen. Yeah. Like give it to him, serve it to him kind of girl in the house, not a complete crazy person. I think that's the difference. Like I wanted her to give him everything that she had, and she took that and went 100 times that. So
yeah,
I never expected that from her.
Yeah, plus I felt like it was all very emotional, and it was emotionally charged. It wasn't like, you're wrong and I didn't do that and I'm coming at you because you're wrong. It was like, why would you do this to me kind of stuff. And it was weird the way she then went about it, with the whole, I'm going to do pots and pans and all that sort of stuff. I feel like it's not what I was hoping for with her. I felt like she could have been a bit smarter about it, and instead just created a ruckus.
Yeah, the chat is pointing out, how dare they, the audience, do this to Rockstar on her daughter's birthday week? Unbelievable.
Oh boy.
You mentioned Brett, Brent. Brett's numbers have actually almost tripled from 2% to almost 6% this week. So
Reddit loves him.
Yes, Brett's popularity has gone up. Looks like Kaitlyn is pretty consistent. She hasn't lost anyone. So that's that. I think everyone else is pretty consistent. I don't think there are any other major changes that I'm seeing. Winston was the lowest last week, but he wasn't on the poll this week because he's gone. So I also asked, what side of the house are you rooting for? And I put the Faute side, the level 6 side, and then a third option, which is I am a proud Fancy Fencerton. So you don't care. Either you don't care, or you like them both, or you hate them both, or whatever. You're a Fancy Fencerton. With 44% of the vote in first place, level 6 seems to be the most supported alliance.
Wow.
I was a bit surprised about that.
I'm very surprised by that.
But what's even more surprising is in second place with 33% of the vote, I'm a proud Fancy Fencerton. A good
I'm not
third
surprised.
of the audience, yes.
Well, I mean,
I'm not surprised about the Fancy Fencerton thing, but I'm surprised that people aren't rooting more for what is basically the underdog team.
Well, I think we are. It's just that they've consistently shown that they're going to disappoint us. It's like I can't remember who was saying this on the feeds. I think it was Bayleigh who said, my mama always told me, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And I feel like in some ways Faute has shown us who they are. They're a bunch of complete knuckleheads and they can't work together. However, I was going to push back on that notion a little bit and say, in some ways, I do understand where they're coming from, because level 6 has had it easy. Every vote has gone their way, the way that they wanted it to go. Mm-hmm. And so they know we're all, I use this phrase a lot. I like it when Rob says it. The bodies are buried. They know what happened during week 1. They know what happened during week 2. They know what happened during week 3. The Faute side of things, they still don't really know any of that. And so I think if they just had 1 week where things went the way they were actually supposed to, like if Bayleigh and Scottie hold strong this week and they vote with them and it is a 5-5 vote, I think they can believe in each other a little bit and trust each other. But right now that's just not possible. And so I feel like in some ways we're the people in the poll, and I don't know this, I didn't vote, so I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I'll say that I feel like in some ways I sort of respect level 6's game at this point because they're playing better, even though probably in my heart of hearts, like in my dream world, I would love for somebody from Faysal to win.
Well, the thing is that it only takes one to mess up an alliance. Like, so I feel like, you've got level 6 over here who everyone's pretty strong and that they've just been able to like power through and not have anything go wrong and everything's great. And Faysal, for the most part, they were pretty loyal to each other when it came to like Swaggy. I felt like Swaggy and Bayleigh and I felt like Haleigh and Rockstar and Fessy, they were going to be loyal to each other. At least I felt that way. Then you've got Kaitlyn who, destroyed all that. And I feel like it's hard now to pick up the pieces and be like, okay, we're going to all trust each other when every single week something's gone awry. And Kaitlyn has even shown that you can't trust your own alliance because she backdoored Swaggy. So it's like, it's easy for them to be like, I don't trust any of you. And it's hard to move forward as a unit if you can't trust anybody. So like, I see where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's like, I don't necessarily think that it's level 6's game prowess that is, as, making them be something. I think that it's ruined by one person.
Yeah, Zuma in the chat points out that a lot of it is probably Tyler. If he goes level 6, support would probably drop, and that does make a decent amount of sense. Tyler getting about 40% of the vote for favorite player, level 6 getting about 40% of the vote for the alliance that the people are supporting. Would not surprise me if most of those votes for level 6 came from the same people that support Tyler. Faysal got 22%, about exactly half of the amount of votes that level 6 got. So very interesting, because I do feel like the Faysal supporters are a bit more vocal, but they are
I know what I wanted to ask you.
Number. Yes.
By the way, I like Jorge's number for, or name for them. He calls them Falte in the chat. So if I was like let's say I'm Haleigh and I win HOH, or anybody from the Faysal side of things wins HOH, you want to know what's going on in the house. I mean, just tell me if you hate this plan, Taran. So if I was HOH and I could take over for a day for whoever wins it, I would basically pull Brett upstairs and say, okay, look, I'm thinking about nominating you, but I will not if you tell me what happened last week. Like, who voted for you to stay last week because you made that speech, and so you had to expect who was going to vote with you. Nobody ever votes one way or the other unless they're expecting certain people to vote with them. Whenever somebody like Kaycee comes to you and says, oh, I haven't even thought about how I'm voting this week, that's a lie. That is a lie, and you know it. So, like, why doesn't somebody, like, pull him up there and say, if you tell me what's going on and who you were, getting support from, I won't nominate you this week.
But then couldn't Brett just say, well, Rockstar must have voted for me? Like, that was what I
Well, that's
heard.
obviously a lie, and I would call him out on that, saying, look, you're not going to out somebody right ahead of the vote who you think is going to be on your side. Like, and if he tried anything like that, I would just say, look, you're going to be eligible for nomination because I don't really trust you right now. Basically, I would pull up all the people who I think are against me and say, whoever tells me what I want to know first, I'll take you out of the bag. But everybody else, I'm just going to put you in a bag and draw 2 people out, and those 2 people are nominated. So if you want to save yourself right now, save yourself.
And if you say to Brett, you just have to say to Brett, if you say Rockstar, you're going on the block.
Yeah.
If you say Rockstar voted for you, you're on the block.
So you're basically saying do what Kayla did in Big Brother Canada 6.
Yeah. I can go on that.
All right. People were asking how many people responded to the poll. About 1,500 responses this time. So yes,
that's great.
Good portion.
I mean, like, no offense, because like I remember when I went to do the poll, like you had to like make sure you're like signed into Google or
Yes.
something in order to do it. Right. So I was like, maybe you might get like 100 responses or something. So that's really good that you're getting 1,500.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate that you have to sign in to Google, but otherwise, I have no way of preventing people from voting multiple times. But yes, good amount of responses here. The final question, which hopefully will be more interesting data for future weeks, because this week doesn't really matter as much. But I did ask, who do you want to be evicted this week? Now that we do have the final nominees here, and this was split almost exactly down the middle for Kaitlyn and Rockstar. Kaitlyn had a very small lead for people that wanted her to be the one evicted, 51% to Rockstar's 49%. So very, very split down the middle. I'm assuming because this is my assumption, I assume the Kaitlyn people want her to go because there will be more drama if she leaves and comes back, and I'm assuming the Rockstar people want her to go because she was one of the least popular people and they don't like her very much. So that would be my guess. Anything surprising there, Melissa?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, at the same time, I would have had trouble answering that question because, you know that they're going to come back. So it's not like, who do you want to leave the game? And if it was, who do you want to leave the game? I think my answer would be a little different, knowing that they wouldn't come back.
Right. So yeah, like I said, hopefully will lead to more interesting data in the future. But for now, about split in half. All right. That was all of the questions so far. Again, if you have any suggestions for interesting questions, just let me know. Tweet them at me, whatever you want to do, and I might put them on. I think this is all very interesting stuff, so we'll keep it going. We do have some questions before we wrap this up. Just a few quick ones here. Kimberly wanted to know, why do you think production allowed Sam to tell everyone about her power? We did have this discussion whether or not this would be allowed. And Brent, you did think it would be. I kind of hoped that it wouldn't, and I thought that it wouldn't because surely they'd want their drama. But they did go through and allowed her to say it. Why did they allow her to say it? I honestly am not sure. I guess.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think it's because it's a bunch of uncertainty released into the house. Like, if she affirmatively knew that someone was going to come back, I do not think they would have allowed her to say something. But the fact that there's so much uncertainty surrounding exactly what it is. Well, it's a chance. So what does that mean? Is it a battle back? Can Swaggy come back? Can Winston come back? I mean, Bayleigh is, like, in part at least, or she was weighing her vote on whether or not Swaggy could come back into the house. I know today she seems to move on from that, but it does seem like it's a part of some of their thinking. So I do think that it's going to be implemented into the episode because production knows they have to face this head on. They can't go into Thursday's eviction with, who's going to go home tonight. It's basically, who's going to be evicted, but will Sam's power save them? They have to face it head on. So I think in some ways they were glad for Sam to get it out of the bag so that the house guests can talk about it in the DR and they have somewhere to go with the episode on Thursday night.
All right. Jordan wants to know, why does JC hate Rachel so much? And does she know that he doesn't like her? It's actually very interesting because JC secretly hates Rachel and she doesn't know about it. Rachel secretly hates Scottie and he doesn't know about it. It's like a chain of secret hate. So no, Rachel does not know about it. Why does JC hate Rachel? I couldn't tell you any better than why JC hates Rockstar, why he... at least I know why he hates Kaitlyn. But I think it's mostly because of a similar reason to Kaitlyn. She had apparently told him that she, wanted to get with Brett. I don't think he likes that. I don't think he wants his men to interact with his women. It'll cloud their head. They'll think with the wrong brain. And I think that she's just generally annoyed him. He just doesn't like her on a personal level. Yeah,
she really annoys him. Yeah, I also think that, like what you said, I'm just looking at the people that really annoy the shit out of JC, and they're all women. Like, I don't know any guy that's really annoyed. I know that in some ways Fessy has gotten into a little bit of a tiff with him, but that's in some ways seems more like, big brother, little brother. Like, I don't think there's any there. Like, I don't think they would ever target each other, even though they are, a little bit annoyed with each other right now. So I think that's just part of who he is. Like, he I think in some ways he's a little bit of a chauvinist too. Like he just like congregates to the guys more, and I don't know that he really feels. I don't know if he respects the women enough. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak out of turn about it, but I do feel like there is a little bit something there.
Who knows? Danny B wants to know, can we do an in-depth analysis of why fans love Kaitlyn's messiness but hated Raven's messiness? There's been a lot of these comparisons. Is there a reason why Kaitlyn is just a lot more fun than Raven? I personally feel like it's because Raven was not only messy against people that the audience was rooting for, but it was also messy in a way that was very boring, where like it didn't cause any drama. She wasn't, where Kaitlyn's messiness, like, just really messes with Tyler's game, who is like the person that is kind of running the house. Raven's messiness aided Paul's game. It made it easier for Paul. And I feel like that's probably one of the key differences in my mind, at least. Melissa, do you have any thoughts?
Plus, Raven wasn't playing the game at all. She was just there. She was awful. Like, no. Like, I mean, there's no comparison. Kaitlyn cares about the game. Kaitlyn wants to be there. Kaitlyn wants to play. Kaitlyn will do what it takes. And, she's totally unpredictable. But Raven just was lying about her own personal life and doing weird stuff. It wasn't messiness because she was just so erratic with her gameplay. It was just messiness because she was just like telling a bunch of lies about her own personal life outside of the game, and it really wasn't about the game. If she was lying all the time about the game, like that would make maybe a little different, but she didn't care about the game. She just didn't care, and I think that's the key distinction for me.
I just retweeted something actually from Matt and Raven when they were talking with Paul. Paul was really annoyed with the hex and Jessica using the hex after he tried to talk her out of it. And, Paul has a little joke about it, and you can see Matt and Raven both just, like, laughing their butt off over it. And it's so disingenuous. And, you see how sanctimonious these people act, just insofar as who they think deserves to be within the game and who deserves not to be in the game. It was just so hard to watch, especially, like, the worst part about Raven to me was that there was never a viable path for her to get to the end that she showed me. Like, her path was somehow her and Paul with Matt, and Matt was going to just step out at 3. And yet Paul was going to take her to the end because she deserved it so much. I mean,
I'm just remembering all this, and now I'm just like getting
right.
So
and
just
thinking about the reaction to Kaitlyn as well. I think that people were completely out on Kaitlyn when she won HOH, and it was like, oh, she's just going to do what Tyler wants her to do. Oh, yeah. This is super boring. Everyone hated Kaitlyn. It was only when she started trying to extort him sexually that people started to like.
The day that you were, when you were on the live feed updates and you realized what was happening, that was the time where I think things flipped on Kaitlyn, where it wasn't all of a sudden, oh, she's just a minion of Tyler. It was, oh my God, like we've got a live one here, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it was. Like, I saw the change in your expression when you were talking about Kaitlyn. It was like on Tuesday of that week, I think, of her HOH reign, and you were like, I think it was a point in time where you saw that she had no intention of keeping Swaggy, but then when she talked to Tyler, she was like, well, I'm thinking about keeping Swaggy, but, you could, talk me out of that if you give me some attention. I mean, she didn't say that, but that's basically what she was saying. And you were just incredulous about it. Like this is amazing. How is this woman doing this? And I feel like the audience in some ways kind of woke up along with you.
Yes. Ryan wants to know, if you had to rank the 3 level 6 women by how much you enjoy watching them, how would you rank them?
That's easy.
Rachel, Kaycee, Angela.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. All right. Matt wants to know, when was the last time we had something significant change during a nomination/veto ceremony or live eviction? Is Big Brother getting more spontaneous/survivory? I think the answer to this, because Matt did exclude double evictions, obviously. I think it's never. I don't think anything has ever changed mid-ceremony before, like it supposedly has this week. So it would be great if it started to move in that direction, because I feel like those ceremonies are so boring most of the time, unless something crazy like the Brett thing happens, that it would be great if we saw more live stuff happening.
It also depends on how you do it. I mean, if you foreshadow who you're going to nominate with a 2-minute soliloquy, I think you run the risk that somebody's all of a sudden going to get spooked and say something. On the other hand, if you just get up there and say, my replacement nominee is Taran, well, once you say that, then there's nothing that can be done. So I feel like Sam probably just yapped a little bit too much. JC rightfully got spooked and said something, and in front of everybody, she felt a little bit of the pressure and decided to just go with the safe choice in Rockstar to make some people happy. And I'm interested to see it on Wednesday. But for those people who are saying that they're bending the rules, I do not believe that. I think, like I said, I think Sam probably talked a little bit too much. She never actually said JC's name, and then because of that, you're allowed to talk during the veto ceremony. People do it all the time. Like, people react to other people making speeches and stuff. And just because that specific time has never been done before doesn't mean they can't.
Yeah, it made me think of what happened to Swaggy and how, I
think he could have stopped it.
Right. Yeah. Swaggy was asking Fessy, like, what's going on? Fessy was like, dude, this isn't good. And Kaitlyn was looking at Swaggy. She was full on tears. She couldn't even get the words out. And Swaggy just sat there in silence. And it made me wonder what would have happened if Swaggy had been like, Kaitlyn, don't do this. Don't do this. Please don't do this. I'm with you. Like, don't do this. She was in a fragile enough state. I could see that potentially working on her, and then panicking and throwing somebody else up there instead. I think this is something that any future player has to consider now. If you can tell that it's coming, try and stop it midway through. You never know. You got nothing to lose, essentially.
Yep.
So yeah,
very
interesting.
And the only place you can really do that is at the veto ceremony, because they already have it locked in with the nominations. So really the veto ceremony is the only time that you can kind of throw something out there and hope that it changes someone's mind.
Yeah. So very, very interesting
I
stuff
will say,
there.
On that point, I'm very interested to see how Tyler's cloud power works, because I don't know, like, let's say for the regular nomination ceremony, is he going to sit in the cloud like when they're upstairs putting the keys in the box, or is he going to sit in the cloud what if they already have Tyler's key in the box?
I would assume that like he's gonna tell the DR, I'm gonna sit in the cloud seat, and then when they go to lock in nominations, he's gonna be like, no, you can't do Tyler.
Well, that won't give them any.
That's true. Maybe he does. Maybe he sits in the cloud seat, and then they're like, what's going on with the cloud seat? And he's like, read out the nominations, and then his face appears on the board, and then it's like, rah, rah, rah. You gotta change it. Who knows?
That's crazy.
I would love if they his face appeared on the board, and then a little cloud came and just took him away. That would be
That'd be cool.
Right.
Are we going to answer that question? I saw a question on Twitter to us asking us if we would change our first draft pick. If it was the same order, would we do a different first draft pick?
Well, sure.
I know someone would.
I mean, Taran would for sure, but who would you pick if you could change your first draft pick?
Oh, I mean, I was between Winston and Tyler in my first pick, and I decided to go with Winston because I felt like he'd be more stable. That did not turn out well, so it would have been
You'd
Tyler.
pick Tyler. Probably Rob would keep his as Tyler if he could keep his. Brent, would you keep yours?
I picked Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd keep Rachel. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking, obviously I would have picked, Tyler or Rachel at first, but couldn't do that. So I would have changed my draft pick. If my first available option, I would have picked Haleigh, because I didn't.
Yeah, she fell to number 8, as I recall. She's on your team, right, Taran?
That was my one good pick of the drafts.
Yeah, so I would have picked Haleigh and then and Kaycee still as my top 2 in that scenario. I wouldn't have picked Angela.
There you go.
I think I have Rachel, and then I have, as far as I can recall, I think I have Swaggy, Bayleigh, and JC. I remember I had all people of color except for Rachel, so that was my team rainbow. Yeah, that's what I did.
I think that's what yours is.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I'm good. Just can't wait to see what happens
Aaron
on Wednesday.
Draft is dwindling.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry.
I can't wait to see what happens on Thursday too, as far as this power goes.
Yes.
How easy do they have to make the challenge?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I can't decide what I'm rooting for more. Like Rockstar coming back, because I don't know how. Like, will she come back with pots and pans, or will she finally cool down? Or would it be really entertaining to just watch her fail like an easy gimme puzzle? That would also be pretty fun to watch, I think. So I'm not sure what I'm rooting for at this point. But it would also be very fun to watch Kaitlyn go and come back. I would not want to. Actually, now thinking about it, it would be also fun to watch Kaitlyn fail an easy gimme puzzle. So I think
There's so many things.
they can't go wrong Thursday night. Whether or not Kaitlyn or Rockstar get voted out, I don't care. Whether or not they fail or come back in, I don't care. I think no matter what happens, it's going to be fun and entertaining. So very excited about that. The Wednesday night episode should be very fun with the veto ceremony and everything that happens there, and the Fessy and the Kaitlyn stuff. So excited for all of that. I will, of course, be live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything happening on the feeds today. Then tomorrow night, after the episode, we will have a recap, and then the same for Thursday night as well. And I think that's all we've got for you. Let me know if you have a hashtag in the hashtag Peggy did nothing wrong is I'm seeing here.
Hashtag Peggy podcast.
Yes, the person that Brent banned for.
I did not ban her.
Okay, sorry. Silenced for praising me too much.
I put her in detention. I can only take so much Taran praising for heaven's
For the
sake.
record, she has been apologizing all podcast long in the chat. So
How embarrassed she is.
Again,
Oh,
just to go
poor
back,
Peggy.
I gave her a warning or two and said, "Hey, like, lay off of that. You're doing it a little too much. Like, we're like, when every message is." Taran, you're so great. I love you. You're amazing. I have such a crush on you. You're so cute today. The hair, the beard, the body, everything. I'm like, honey, give it a rest is what I told her. And then she kept doing it afterwards. And so, bitch, I'm going to sit in detention for 5 minutes while you cool your jets, and then you can come back and be with the rest of us. But, wasn't a good look.
I think we have discovered definitively how Brent would be as an HOH. That's
right. I would be a mess. I'd get the robe. I'd be like Natalie from Big Brother 11 with the crown and the sunglasses. Oh, it'd be great. Oh.
All right. So you can follow us on Twitter if you want to vote in the poll for the Stock Watch. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. You can follow Brent at One Lucky Gay, and Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. So for Brent and Melissa, I'm Taran Armstrong. Hashtag Peggy did nothing wrong. We'll see you next time.